Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is story about what if Naruto was the son of Goku and older brother to Gohan. Part 1. Before I start, please do support for more amazing content and comments for part 2. Do consider to subscribe my channel and share my video to your friends and check out the description as well. Let's start the video. Goku stared at his wife, Kai, who was holding a red bundle in her arms with nothing but happiness in his eyes. Why? That is because the bundle in her arms is their first newborn child. The baby opened his eyes to see his mother and then his father. He tried to reach for Goku, but couldn't reach him. Goku went over to the pair and picked him up. The baby started to giggle when he touched his face, making Kai go on Goku laugh. When Kai looked at the baby, she could almost see the spitting image of Goku, except for his hair being spiked in several different directions, 3 fox-like whiskers in each cheek, a red tail sticking out of his tailbone, and his eyes were unlike their eyes as they were shockingly deep blue. Just as she was watching Goku playing with their baby with a smile on his face, her face changed into a shocked expression as she realized something. They didn't even name their baby. Standing up, Kai went to Goku and told him to stop for a second. Goku, we forgot to name our baby. What name do you think we should name him? Goku also realized and started to think with his wife. Just as he was thinking, his stomach rumbled. He put down the baby inside the crib and started walking to the kitchen. Well, I'm hungry. I'm going to go eat. Kai couldn't believe her husband. He was going to eat, not even caring that their child didn't have a name. She got angry and walked up to him while jabbing her finger into his chest. What is wrong with you? We have a child that has no name and all you can think about is food. But Kai. No buts, Goku. You can get something to eat once you find at least one name. Kai then took the baby out of crib and started to rock him back and forth while watching her husband furrow his eyebrows in concentration. Goku was trying to think of names for his child so his wife would let him eat. Even though he knew that he was the strongest in the world, he wasn't crazy enough to go against a pissed off Kai. Trying to think of children names started to drift to all kinds of food he could eat, causing him to drool a little. Chicken, steak, pig, ramen with Naruto. Wait, Naruto, Naruto. That's it. Looking back at Kai, he replies. What about Naruto? Naruto? What kind of? She stopped her rants when she heard a giggle. She looked at her baby and noticed he was giggling. Bringing him up to her face, she says Naruto again and he giggles. She tried the name Einstein and the baby started to cry. She then again says Naruto and he stops crying and starts giggling. She couldn't believe it. The baby actually liked that name. Naruto. Thinking about it, she also notices it also means maelstrom, making her shake her head with a smile in amusement. Of course. A child of ours would obviously like a name of maelstrom since he does come from 2 fighters. Kai then finally decided that it was a good name. She looks at her husband and smiles. Alright, Goku, since you got a good name, you can go eat. Yay. Kai can only shake her head in amusement again as she looks down at the now named Naruto, who was giggling and clapping his head, making her hug her son even closer while screaming cute. After they all ate, Goku picked up Naruto and smiled at his son. Well, he was truly happy. He was curious about his son. When he was born, he felt that his power level was already higher than his own. If he had to guess, Naruto's power level was around 2000. Goku knew that training his son would be so much fun. 5 years later. It is a beautiful morning with the birds chirping, sun shining, and a nice breeze blowing outside. Though, this morning isn't so pleasant for one particular family. In a house in the mountains, one who was nearby could hear screaming and things breaking. Those who were nearby can only ask themselves, why? The reason can only be explained inside. Inside we find one angry Kai holding onto her trusty frying pan of doom, glaring at a petrified Goku backing up on the wall. Now you're probably asking yourself one question. How can the strongest man on earth be easily intimidated by his wife? Well, the reason is because of their conversation about one little subject. No. You will not train my little Naruto to be a brute. Kai, calm down. Naruto isn't going to be a brute, he's only training to be powerful enough to protect himself. You're over-exaggerating. Over-exaggerating? I am not over-exaggerating. If he's going to be anything, he's going to be a great scholar. A scholar? That sounds stupid. How is that better than fighting? Because it actually brings money to make our lives better, unlike fighting. Okay. I get it. Then how about this? You let me train him every day, then after training he can go with you to study all he wants for the rest of the day. Sound good? Kai thought about it real hard until she released a sigh of annoyance, but relented nonetheless. As long as Naruto got to study, then she was fine with whatever. Fine. You can train him. Yes. Thank you, Kai. I promise Naruto will get to study as much as you want after training. Coincidentally, the primary subject of their conversation came out of his room while rubbing his eyes from his sleep. Naruto grew up very well throughout the years into a nice little boy that other girls and women would consider cute or handsome to others. Naruto's height was 4'0", pretty high for a 5-year-old. His hair was the same as always, spiked up in all directions, his eyes were still the deep blue he was born with that contained nothing but joy and curiosity, and his 3 whisker marks on each cheek seemed to get a little thicker. Right now he was wearing some pajamas that made him look like a baby fox, making his cuteness grow higher. Naruto walked up to his parents and moved his head to the side with a confused expression, making Kai resist her urge to hug her child to death at his natural cuteness. "Daddy, mommy. What's going on?" "Well, Naruto. We were just talking about how you can now train with me in martial arts." Naruto's eyes seemed to brighten up and he looked at his mom for confirmation. When he saw her nod with a smile, Naruto started to jump up and down like crazy. Ever since Naruto first saw his father train, he's always been hooked on fighting. He couldn't help it. Whenever he saw something close to fighting, he would easily get excited. Now that he found out he can actually fight himself, Naruto felt like he was going to explode. Kai stopped her son's happy dance and looked straight into his eyes. "I know you're happy about this, Naruto, but even though I'm allowing it, you have to study with me after training so we can keep with your studies. Understand?" Naruto nods his head yes, and Kai smiles while patting her son's head. Goku was watching this unfold and he himself couldn't wait for training. When he felt his son's power level after 5 years, he got even more shocked and excited when he sensed it was even stronger and was around 2500. Goku knew once he got his son to understand the basics that he would be able to fight someone that would give him a good challenge. Goku soon cleared his throat to get Naruto's attention. "Well, what are you waiting for, Naruto? Go get dressed so we can start training." Naruto's face instantly got happier, if that was possible, and he ran to his room and came back 5 minutes later. Naruto's clothing now was a GI he got for his birthday. His GI was color black with the symbol for turtle like his father's with a red undershirt. On his wrist were red wristbands that weighed 4 pounds and on his ankles were red ankle weights that are 8 pounds. He wore boots similar to his father, except his were red with black strips on the side. He also had his red tail wrapped around his was it like a belt. Overall, he looked like a mini Goku with darker colors. Naruto and Goku soon went to the front door. "Are you ready, Naruto?" "I sure am, Dad." "Then let's go." Soon they opened the door and left the house. They didn't realize it, but this was the day a legend was born. There stood 2 figures looking at one another in a clear grass field. One figure had spiky hair that went in each direction, black pupilless eyes, and wore a GI. This figure's GI consisted of colors orange and blue. His body could easily be defined under all the clothing, revealing a 8-pack and a height of 5'9". The other figure had spiky hair that went in all directions, deep blue eyes, and 3 fox-like whisker marks on each cheeks. This figure also had a GI, but unlike the other, the GI consisted of black and red. This figure's body was like the other, except he had an outline of a developing 6-pack and a height of 5'4", which was impressive for a 10-year-old. These were none other than Goku's son and Naruto's son, respectively. It has been 5 years since they started training and it couldn't have been better. 1 year after they started training, Gohan was born, making the family even more happier. It also helped that when Gohan was born, Kai got to have him be a scholar, while Naruto could train more freely, much to his joy, but still had an IQ of 225. Surprisingly, when Naruto was studying with his mother, he found another interest, which was inventing just like his dad's friend, Bulma, who had an IQ of 300. He got so interested in it that he invented gravity weights or GW, for short, without his parents, knowing that increases the gravity around an object with a limit of 5 times Earth's gravity, increasing his speed and strength. They were designed to look like his wrist and ankle bands, which without the increase of gravity, were 10 pounds and 20 pounds respectively, so that none of his parents could tell the difference. Somehow Kai got Goku to study as well, 2 years after Gohan was born, and he got his IQ to 120, which was fine for him, as he didn't want to be that smart. Though, the thing that was the best throughout all the years was the training. After Naruto got the basics down in only 2 weeks, he started training with his father extensively. Thanks to that, Goku's power level grew to level 3000, and Naruto himself was around the power level of 3500. Both Goku and Naruto do nothing but stare at each other with utmost concentration. As the wind blows, Goku charges at speed others would see as a blur, but to Naruto, who was used to moving at high speeds, it was moving in slow motion. As the fist came towards his face, he ducked, making Goku miss. Before Goku could react, Naruto sends a quick jab towards his gut, making him fly and hit a boulder. Goku, after freeing himself from the boulder, shakes his head to stop the dizziness and gets back into a fighting stance. Looking at his son, he saw that the distance from each other was at 1 mile. Even though he knew this, Goku prepared for anything. Good thing too, because when he looked at his son in the distance, he disappeared and instantly reappeared at his side with a roundhouse kick in the ready. Some would think he would dodge or run right now, but nope. He just stood there and caught the leg. Naruto, who expected to hit his dad in the head with a kick, was surprised when he caught his leg but got over it and started a close combat fight with his dad. As they both throwing punches and kicks at each other at the speed of sound and dodging or blocking each other's hits, Naruto decided to kick this up a notch and increased his power level to 1750 and fought even faster, getting some hits at his father and finally made some distance with a kick to the chest. Goku coughed out some blood as he was sent flying, but stopped. Goku started to breath heavy and sweat a little. He noticed that his son increased his level, so he did too, all the way to 3000. Soon his breathing returned to normal and sweat stopped. He charged again at his fastest, which was as fast as the speed of sound times 4, and got in an elbow to his son's gut, then a sweep kick, making him fall to the floor. As Naruto was falling to the ground, he quickly shot his hands to the floor and performed a couple of backflips. As soon as he stopped to rest, he had to tilt his head to the right as Goku sent a fist to his face, making him a little on the edge. Naruto could tell if he didn't do something soon he would lose. So with that thought in mind, he powered up his level again to 3500. As soon as he did, both, yet again, charged at each other with even faster punches and kicks, which were even faster than the speed of sound times 5, but both still could dodge each other's hit. Their fists soon collided with one another, fighting for dominance. Goku tried to put all his strength into it but found himself getting pushed back. He finally decided it was time to end things once and for all. Jumping back, making Naruto smash his fist into the floor, making a miniature fissure, and put his hands into his right hip and charged his Kai into making a blue glow soon grow within it. Goku then proceeded to chant the name of the attack. Naruto, sensing the increase in Kai, also got his hands together in the same way as his father, but instead of a blue color, his grew a reddish-black color. Like Goku, he started to chant the name of the attack. They both started to move their hands forward and called out their attacks. Kamehameha. When both arms were fully outstretched, two beams, one blue and other reddish-black, came from their hands and headed for each other. The beams soon collided and started to fight for dominance. Goku was charging as much as he could into the attack as his power started to escalate each second. Feeling Naruto's Kamehameha wave beat as little by little, he forced the even more of his power into it while giving out a war cry. Naruto felt the push of the waves making his start to lose, but he didn't give up and unintentionally added a lot more power than he thought he would. Naruto's Kamehameha wave grew larger and then overcame Goku's Kamehameha wave. The wave soon hit Goku's form dead on, causing a huge explosion and dust cloud to appear. When the dust cleared, it revealed a panting Goku in his normal state with tattered clothing. Goku felt like he was going to pass out any second now, but even though he lost, he smiled and, sure enough, he became unconscious. Before he could fall though, Naruto rushed towards his area in top speed and caught his dad on his back. He could only chuckle in amusement at his father's antics. Naruto then started to fly using his Kai and took his dad to their home. Back home. Once Naruto's feet touched the floor, he started walking to the front door of the house. Just as he was about to open the door opened up to reveal his little brother, Gohan, holding it open. Gohan, unlike Naruto, was really shy and timid when he was 3, but when he got some talking with his father and his older brother, he became a little more confident in himself and less shy. Gohan's attire was a yellow surcoat with a kanji for descendant on the front and a red hat with a 4-star Dragon Ball on top and stood at a height of 310. Even though Goku insisted that Gohan also be trained, Kai wouldn't have any of it and drilled in lots of studies into Gohan, making him more of a scholar than a fighter. When Gohan saw his older brother carry their dad on his back, he started to panic but calmed down when he saw that his older brother patted his head. "Don't worry about Dad, Squirt. We were just training and it went a little overboard, but he'll be fine after I heal him in a couple of minutes. So why don't you tell Mom that we're back and to start some lunch, K?" Gohan sighed in relief and smiled while nodding to Naruto and ran back into the kitchen. Naruto chuckled as his little brother left and went towards the couch. He then put down Goku on the couch. He then went to the drawer near the couch and took a bag out. When he opened the bag, there was 3 senzu bean. During the middle of their training, Goku went back to Korin's tower and received 3 senzu bean, just in case their injuries get really serious while training. Since the training went without any serious injuries, they left the beans in some drawers. Seeing that Goku got hurt even more than he usually does, Naruto decided that it was okay to use 1 senzu bean. Opening his father's mouth, Naruto put the senzu bean in and Goku, in his unconscious state, unconsciously bit into the senzu bean. When the senzu bean was fully ingested, Naruto saw his dad start to stir and opened his eyes. Goku looked around until he saw his son to his right. Thinking back, he couldn't help chuckle at their little spar. As he started to get up, he winced a little when he felt some pain, but got over it really fast when the senzu bean started doing its job and instantly healed the pain from his stomach. He looked down at his arm and felt his power get slightly higher than Naruto's. He didn't know why, but it seemed after he got some serious injuries or moderate injuries, his power would get stronger depending on the damage. He decided to think about it at a later time. Man, that was one hell of a fight you put up there, Naruto. Thanks dad. Sorry about that. I accidentally added too much power and overcharged my Kamehameha wave in the last second. Goku waved it off and replied it's alright. Their conversation was stopped by a call of lunch, which made Goku push his son out of the way to try and reach the kitchen first, but to no avail because Naruto easily tripped his dad and ran to the kitchen while laughing maniacally. After lunch, where Goku was grumbling about evil sons and Naruto with Gohan snickering at their father, Goku looked towards his two kids. Well, now that we're done with dinner, why don't I take you guys to finally meet my friends? This surprised Gohan and Naruto, but when they looked towards Kai expecting her to be mad about it, were further surprised to see her smile and nod. Even though they were excited about finally meeting their dad's friends, Naruto had to ask her mom why. Mom? You're actually letting dad take us? I thought you wouldn't let him since you never usually agree with him. This made Goku face fault and Kai giggle. Well, it is true that I don't usually agree with your father, I do agree with him that meeting other people will help you guys better socialize with people, so I decided it was okay just this once. Naruto and Gohan cheered while Goku was laughing. Soon after they calmed down, they were now outside the house with Goku holding Gohan and Naruto at his side. Goku took in a deep breath along with Naruto and yelled. Nimbus Kurama. Just then, a yellow cloud appeared in front of Goku, while a giant red nine-tailed fox was at Naruto's side. Naruto found Kurama at age 6 when he was just a little fox with one tail injured during training and healed him. After he healed him, he was surprised to find it talk and accept him as his master. This made Naruto grin, but his grin grew when he found out that Kurama would grow stronger as time passes. So after many years, Kurama finally grew into his final form, which is a nine-tailed fox the size of a dinosaur that can change his shape, with a power level of 2500 and the ability to shape-shift, which made having Kurama even sweeter. Goku then jumped on Nimbus with Gohan on his lap, while Naruto jumped on Kurama, who transformed into a giant eagle and soon flew towards Rashi's island. Rashi's island. There on an island was a decent-sized house where 3 people were currently at. One was a bald man with 6 dots on his forehead wearing a gi exactly like Goku and was at a height of 5'0". Another was an old man who was also bald with a white beard, sunglasses, a green shirt and yellow shorts and was at a height of 5'5". The last was a woman with greenish-blue hair wearing a blue dress, white belt and a white coat over it and was at a height of 5'5" as well. This were Krillin, Rashi the turtle hermit and Bulma briefs. These 3 were talking about everyday things until Krillin and Rashi froze slightly. Bulma saw this and got confused. Hey guys, what's wrong? Krillin turned to her and said in a shaken voice. There's 3 very high-powered levels heading this way. Well, that might just be Goku and some friend of his heading here for a visit. This time, Rashi replied with nothing but seriousness and fear. I don't think so, Bulma. Goku's power level was around 535, these power levels are about 2500, 3500 and 4000. This scared and shocked Bulma, who couldn't feel power levels, and Krillin, who wasn't as experienced in feeling power levels. They stopped talking once the 3 power levels landed on the island and Krillin along with Rashi went into a fighting stance. They were about to attack when they heard a familiar voice. Master Rashi, Krillin, Bulma, it's great to see you. When it cleared, it revealed Goku holding some child with a tail on Nimbus and another kid with a tail that was red on a giant hawk that poofed transforming into a giant nine-tailed fox. They relaxed but were still shocked on the power levels and confused about who the others were. Bulma stepped up and voiced her question. Hey Goku, who are these 2 kids? Don't tell me you started to babysit. Nope. These 2 are my kids, Naruto and Gohan. This got a number of reactions. Bulma's eyes widened in shock, Krillin's jaw hit the ground, and Rashi's glasses dropped slightly, with his eyes widening in shock and jaw hitting the ground. Krillin shakily pointed a finger towards Gohan. So this kid and pointed to Naruto, that kid are your kids. Am I right? Yep. Why don't you introduce yourself guys? Gohan jumped off his dad and bowed his head. It's nice to meet you. My name is Gohan's son. Naruto jumped off Kurama and landed perfectly next to Gohan and grinned while putting his hands behind his back. And I'm Naruto's son. It's great to finally meet my dad's friends. Bulma got out of her shock and went towards Goku. She whispered in a hushed tone. So you and Kai finally did it, huh? Did what? You know what I mean. No, I don't. This caused her to face fault. Even though Goku's IQ increased, he was still dense about girls as usual. Bulma soon got over it and walked over to Gohan and Naruto, but blushed slightly when she saw Naruto's physique, which would make any girl go crazy, but was able to clear her head. She crouched down to Gohan's level and smiled. So how old are you, Gohan? I'm 4 years old. Oh, wow, 4 years old. Are you going to be a fighter like your daddy? She was surprised when she saw him shake his head no. No, I'm going to being an orthopedist like my mom wanted me to be. This also surprised her since she didn't expect a 4-year-old to be an orthopedist. Come on, seriously, what kind of kid would dream of that or even know how to say the word right? Shaking her head, she stood back up and looked towards Naruto because, even though he was 10, he was nearly as tall as her by an inch. So how about you, Naruto? Well, I'm 10 years old and I'm a fighter like my dad. Even though she wasn't surprised about him being a fighter like Goku, she was surprised about him being only 10. She thought he was at least 14 or 13, but 10 and already taller than her. That was impressive. Goku walked up to his kids and put a hand on Gohan's head and another hand on Naruto's shoulder. These two are going to go far. I just know it. Krillin, who was in the background, decided to ask a question that's been on his mind lately. Hey Goku. Yeah, Krillin. Who's the fox? This caused everyone want to sweat drop, even Kurama, since no one even noticed him. Later, they were soon having fun talking and laughing, but Goku and Naruto inwardly narrowed their eyes as they sensed a low power level for them, but to others a high power level, heading for Earth with evil intentions, and they suppressed their power levels to around 500 so they were underestimated, causing Kurama to follow their example. Unknown area. There was Farmer doing his usual job like any other day, but stopped when he saw an object falling towards his location. Getting scared, he got in his truck and drove away from the approaching object that crashed into his previous area. Heading out, he takes out a shotgun with him and looks down towards the crater to find a pod-like object. The pod in question was white in color with a red-like mirror on the middle that seemed to be a way to see through. Just as he was getting closer, he stopped when he saw the pod open up. He got his shotgun in the ready waiting till whatever it was. When the thing came out, it revealed a man. The man had long spiky hair that went all the way to his waist, black pupil-less eyes, and a thing on his left ear that was white that was holding a green screen in front of the man's left eye. The man wore brown and black colored battle armor with a brown furry belt around his waist. If one would look closer, you would see it was actually a tail. The man soon floated up out of the crater, making the farmer step back in fear. When he landed back down, he scowled at the man. The creatures in this planet are still alive. Kakarot failed us. Is that so? The man tapped a weird thing on his ear and soon a bunch of weird symbols appeared on the green screen. Your power level is a puny level of 5, huh? Too bad. The farmer soon threatened the man with his gun. Don't come any closer. I'll use this thing. The man took a step forward making the man shoot a bullet but got scared when the man easily caught the bullet. Here. Catch. The man then flicked the bullet back breaking the farmer's gun in half and hitting the man's truck while the farmer flew as well and hit the front of the truck getting knocked out. The man smirks but soon looked to his left as the screen on his eye was pointing towards an area. There's a high power level over there. That must be Kakarot. The man's smirk grew even larger as he charged his Kai. Here I come, Kakarot. Desert-like landscape. On top of one of the many mountains stood a green man. This man was wearing a white turban, a white coat and a purplish dark blue GI and was at a height of 7'0". He had sharp ears and 2 antennas on his head. This was the Piccolo Jr., son of King Piccolo who tried to rule the world but was ultimately stopped by Goku. Now, Piccolo lives to avenge his father's death by defeating Goku. As he was looking at the landscape, his eyes widen in shock and slight fear as he senses a high power level. Turning around, he sees an object approaching. Is that Goku? No. It isn't it. It's more sinister. The object landed in front of Piccolo to reveal the same man that landed on Earth. The man looked at Piccolo with boredom. Excuse me, I was trying to find my brother, Kakarot, and when I felt a high power level around here, I found you, so I was wondering have you seen a man named Kakarot? You're excused, but I think you're going to have to get your eyes checked because I think you're growing blind. Oh, you're a funny man. Yeah? Well, let me show you how funny I can be. Piccolo then charged all his Kai into his hand and fired a Kai blast at the man. Piccolo smirks thinking he got him, but takes step back in fear and sweats when he saw he was perfectly fine. Oh look. You managed to burn away all my leg hair. A power level of 320. Impressive. Now let me show you a real attack I like to call keep your eye on the birdie. With that, the man held out his hand slowly powering Kai into it, causing Piccolo to sweat even more in fear. Keep your eye on the bird. His sentence was cut short when the green screen pointed to a new area. The man stopped powering his Kai and turned to the indicated area. A higher power level. That must be Kakarot. Kakarot, here I come. The man soon flew away towards Rashi's island, leaving a scared Piccolo who narrowed his eyes. This could be a problem. Piccolo then flew after the man, ready to stop him if need be. Back on Rashi's island. As everyone was having fun, Goku and Naruto froze a little, only to narrow their eyes to the sky. Gohan got confused when he saw his father and older brother get frozen. "Daddy, brother, what's wrong?" Goku looks down at Gohan and gives him a smile while patting his head. "Gohan, I want you to stay with Bulma, okay? Your brother and I have to deal with something really quick." Gohan slowly nodded, going to Bulma, who picked him up, and Naruto looked towards Rashi, Krillin and Kurama. "Krillin, old man, Kurama. I need you to stay inside with Bulma and Gohan." Krillin stepped up and said. "But, we can't." Goku quickly cut him off. "Krillin. Naruto and I got it. Don't worry." Krillin reluctantly left inside with Rashi and Kurama into the house. When they left, Naruto looked towards his dad to see him nod. Nodding back, both flew up into the air. They both stopped as they saw a man appear in front of them. "Hello, Kakarot. It's nice to see you again after so many years." Goku and Naruto got into a fighting stance while keeping their power levels low, just in case they needed a trump card. Goku replied. "Who's this Kakarot? My name is Goku and who are you?" "What do you mean? Don't you remember me? And why haven't you done your mission?" "No. Should I, and what mission are you talking about?" "How could you forget about me?" The man smirks evilly. "Your older brother, Raditz, and you were sent to this planet to destroy it, of course." Goku gets shocked when he finds out that he has a brother and is an alien, that he loosens his fighting stance but gets over it when he hears his son reply to him. "Dad. Don't listen to him. He isn't your brother because you are Goku, my father and protector of Earth." Goku gave his son a smile and a nod, then narrowed his eyes while getting into his fighting stance again. The man now known as Raditz gets surprised to find that the other Saiyan next to Goku was his nephew, but his smirk grew thinking about the possibilities of having him on their side. "Interesting. It seems that you must be my nephew. Why don't you come with us so we can rule this pathetic excuse of a planet and maybe even the world?" Naruto growled at the man and snapped back at him. "I am not your nephew. You're just a monster that has nothing but destruction on their mind, and I will never let you take over Earth. I'll kill you before that even happens." Raditz's smirk turned into scowl as he heard Naruto's reply. "Fine. Be that way, little nephew." Raditz turns to Goku. "I will give you one more chance, Kakarot. If you kill 100 humans in one day, I'll let you join us." "Why would I want to join you?" "Because if you don't." Raditz disappeared then reappeared with, to their horror, Gohan by his tail. "I'll kill my other nephew." Goku and Naruto got scared about the thought of Gohan dying, that they started to get angry but cooled down when they saw him hold a Kai blast towards the petrified Gohan's face. Naruto, though, was curious on how he knew about Gohan. "How did you know about Gohan?" "That simple really. I saw through my scouter a weak power level that seemed to be slightly higher than the other weaklings, so I assumed that he was a Saiyan." Naruto growled even more but stopped when he felt Goku put a hand on his shoulder. Nodding to Goku, he stepped back as Goku flew a little bit closer. "Okay, we'll do it. Just, please, don't hurt Gohan." Raditz smirked thinking he had won but in reality was so screwed. "Very good. I expect to see some results when I come back." With that, Raditz flew away. Goku, after Raditz left, released a sigh in relief and looked towards Naruto, seeing his shocked expression. Deciding to elaborate, Goku explained that he was going to let him go, but when he left that they'll go after them while suppressing their Kai. As they talked, Piccolo soon arrived and flew towards them. When Naruto was about to attack, Goku stopped him and met Piccolo halfway. "So I see you faced him already, Piccolo." "Yes, and, as much as I hate to say it, we need to work together to deal with him." Goku chuckled at Piccolo's words, confusing him until he started to shake and sweat in fear when he sensed their suppressed power levels. Piccolo shakily replied. "How can you have so much power?" "Lot and lots of training with my son, Naruto." "Naruto? Who's this?" He was cut off when he felt another power level that was higher than Goku's, making him shake and sweat even more. Looking further down, he saw Naruto smiling and waving form. His only thoughts were, "These guys are freaking monsters." Raditz's space pod. As Raditz watched Gohan stubble in the pod with amusement, his scouter goes off, making his attention go back to it. When he reads it, his eyes widen in shock and fear. What the hell? A power level of 4,000 and 3,500. Who could it be? Frieza and Vegeta? No. These power levels are still smaller than their power levels. So, who? His question was soon answered when the two figures with the power levels appeared in a dust cloud. He slowly took a step back in fear, but got even more shocked to find his brother, Kakarot, and his nephew, Naruto, were the ones with the power levels, and with the same green man from before, with a power level of 1020. Getting furious about his sudden arrival and forgetting about their power levels, he fly out of the crater and down back to the floor. "What are you doing here, Kakarot? Did you already kill 100 humans?" "No, I haven't. I'm here to defeat you once and for all and get back Gohan." Raditz smirks evilly, still forgetting about their power levels, and charges Goku at fast speeds for Piccolo, but to Naruto and Goku, a snail's pace. As the fist approaches Goku's face, it is soon caught by Naruto, who appeared not a second later. He then, with his grip still on Raditz's fist, kicked him in his solar plexus, sending him towards a mountain. As Raditz hits the mountain, he coughs blood as he feels a fist connect with his gut. When he looked up, he saw that it was Goku who punched him. The only thing he could think before he was kicked towards Naruto was past. Piccolo, who was in the sidelines, could only gawk at the scene of Raditz getting hit back and forth like a pinball, before it ended with him getting slammed down back to earth by Naruto, who used an axe kick to his head. As Naruto heard Raditz come in contact with the floor, he shouted to Piccolo. "Piccolo?" Piccolo turned his head towards Naruto, ended. Piccolo smirked at replied with a short gladly, and charged his attack. Closing his hands, leaving out his index and middle finger, and putting them on his forehead, he began to channel Kai into it, causing it to glow with yellow sparks. Putting his power level to about 2000 Kai worth into it, he thrust his finger towards Raditz's form and yelled out. "Special beam cannon." The purple beam with yellow circles surrounding then shot out of his fingers and pierced Raditz's stomach when he was lifted at the last second by Goku. Seeing that Raditz was finally defeated, they all released a sigh of relief. Goku turned to an exhausted Piccolo and gave him a smile. "Great job, Piccolo." Piccolo just scowled at him before turning his head, but if one was to look closely, they would see a small smile on his face. Goku's smile just got bigger at his response as he was expecting it. Naruto could still hear Gohan crying, so he turned to Goku. "I better get Gohan out of that thing now that Raditz is dead." Goku just nodded in response because he knew that Naruto was better at calming Gohan than anyone else, including Kai. Naruto approached the pod and watched as Gohan jumped on his form, hugging him as tight as he could, while repeating over and over, "Big brother," or "I was so scared." Naruto gave him a soft smile while saying soothing words that soon made him sleep. Sighing again for like the 100th time today, he got Gohan on his back and came up to Goku and Piccolo, who were discussing about something. "At least none of us died. Now, we can use the Dragon Balls to wish for something else in case of an emergency." Piccolo just gave a grunt. "Yes, I agree wholeheartedly. At least, we didn't have to waste in on your insignificant life." Even though Goku and Naruto's power level terrified, he was extremely confident that he could train himself to get close to their level in no time. Goku just pouted and complained how mean Piccolo was while Naruto laughed at his father's antics and Piccolo just smirked smugly. They all froze though when they heard an all too familiar dark laughter. They turned their heads to see the owner of the voice was Raditz, who apparently seemed to have a little life in him. "Haha, I like to thank you, you fools. That information on these Dragon Balls that you have been talking about has been sent to my comrades. To be more specific, my Saiyan comrades. Now, they will come to Earth and avenge me. What's even better is," here he turned his main focus on Goku and Naruto, "they are even stronger than me by 10 times. Prepare for your destruction." Raditz then started to laugh even more manically before his eyes became dulled and truly did die. They stood there frozen before Naruto grit his teeth in anger, Goku slammed his arms in the ground, and Piccolo gripped his hands into a fist as tight as he could. The first one to calm down was Piccolo as he sighed before he looked at Goku and Naruto with determined eyes. "Stop. There is nothing we can do to prevent the arrival of these other Saiyans." When they heard this, they slowly calmed down but were still angry on the inside. Seeing that they were calmer than before, Piccolo continued. "The only thing we can do now is to train and, as much as I hate to admit it, we need to work together in order to get stronger." Naruto and Goku nodded at Piccolo with serious expressions on their face. Goku and Piccolo started to talk about training regiments that could work before Naruto thought of an idea. "Dad, Piccolo," said people turned to Naruto, "I think I have perfect plan to prepare for the Saiyans." Having their full attention, Naruto continued and turned to Piccolo. "I think you should teach Gohan how to fight and master his Kai." Seeing that Piccolo was about to protest, Naruto held up a hand stopping him. "Before you protest, I know you were able to sense Gohan's Kai when he was in the pod, jump up into incredible levels for a short period of time. I think you can bring it out because I have a strong feeling that you can be a good teacher for him. Also, if you're wondering why can't my dad or I teach Gohan, it's simple really. As much as I hate to say it, Gohan as he is now will only be a hindrance to our training because we won't be able to train to the fullest if we have to worry about Gohan. Piccolo reluctantly agreed to that as he knew that if anyone in Earth had a chance against the Saiyans, it would Goku, who was a full Saiyan himself, and Naruto, which was pretty much self-explanatory. Naruto turned to Goku and said. "Well, Piccolo trains Gohan, Dad, you and I can go see Kami to see if he has any more things to train us or if he knows someone that can train us. Sound like a plan?" Goku and Piccolo turned to each other before they looked back at Naruto and nodded. Naruto smiled at their response and looked up at the sky and gained a determined fire in his eyes. "Watch out, Saiyans. When you arrive, we'll be ready to kick your asses." Unknown area in space. 3 pods can be seen flying through space heading for the direction of Earth. Within one of the pods sat a spiky-haired figure who opened their eyes and smirked. After Naruto, Goku, and Piccolo were done making plans, Piccolo grabbed Gohan from Naruto and flew off to train him somewhere else. Naruto and Goku then flew back to Master Roshi's island to inform them what happened, but not before Goku took the scouter off of Raditz's body to give to Bulma because he knew that she would be interested in this kind of technology since it came from another planet. When they arrived at Kame House, Naruto was the one who told them about the inevitable arrival of the Saiyans and their plan to prepare for them. Krillin and Roshi agreed to the plan, but Bulma was asking why couldn't they just wish the Saiyans to be gone with the Dragon Balls and be done with it, which Krillin agreed was a good idea. Surprisingly, Goku was the one who explained that since the Saiyans are more powerful than Kami, the creator of the Dragon Balls, then Shenron wouldn't have the power to be able to destroy them. Bulma and Krillin both shook in fear when they heard that not even Shenron could stop these Saiyans from arriving. Though, Naruto reassured them that it would be fine because by the time they arrive, they will be strong enough to face the Saiyans. This calmed them down immediately and soon enough, Goku with Naruto, Krillin, and, shockingly, Master Roshi, who explained that it was time for him to get back up and fight like he used to, left for Kami's lookout, while Goku and Naruto had Bulma explain the situation to Kai because they would be terrified of her reaction and don't want to face her wrath. This of course made Bulma scared and, before she could even decline, they left immediately with Goku riding on Nimbus and Naruto, Krillin, and Roshi on a transformed Kurama. Bulma just sighed in defeat before she got in her hover car and headed for Goku's house, where she later informed Kai of the situation, and boy was she pissed. Kai then looked for something as an outlet for her anger and, unfortunately for a certain blue-haired woman, decided to take it out on Bulma. Anyways, when they arrived at Kami's lookout, Kami was already there waiting for them by his side. Kami pretty much looked like Piccolo except with more wrinkles on his face and was wearing a white robe that had the kanji for God on the front with a blue cape. He also was at the height of 7'4". Was a 6'4" black humanoid with red lips and was wearing red shoes, white pants with a red belt, a violet vest with a yellow outline, and yellow armbands. Kami, when they arrived, told the group of how they knew what their plan was and agreed that it was a good plan. He also said that he was able to get the rest of the Z-warriors to come and were waiting inside. When they were inside the building, they saw Yamcha, Tien, Chiaotzu, and Yajirobe were there just talking to each other. Yamcha was a 6'0" man with long shaggy black hair. He was wearing the exact same thing Goku is wearing. Tien was a 6'1" man with a bald head and 3 eyes. He was wearing a white muscle shirt, green pants with a red belt similar to Popo, and green armbands. Chiaotzu was 4'6" pale white man with red circles on his cheeks, despite his childlike appearance. He was wearing black pants, a green shirt with a symbol on the front, and a black hat with a red ball on top. Yajirobe was a 5'5" man with long untidy hair and small beady eyes. He was wearing a sleeveless knee-length red yukata with black stripes. On his back, one could see a katana. Yamcha, Tien, and Chiaotzu turned to see their group and they all smiled as they approached, while Yajirobe just sat down in a nearby chair and ate some dumplings. Yamcha greeted Goku with a high five, while Tien and Chiaotzu gave small nods. They then started talking about how long it's been since they last saw each other. During the middle of their conversation, Yamcha pointed to Naruto and Kurama, who were off to the side as they watched their conversation, and asked Goku who they were. Goku gave a big smile as he gestured to Naruto and Kurama and told the group that Naruto was his son and Kurama was Naruto's friend. Tien and Chiaotzu were surprised at first before they came up to Naruto, and they both took turns shaking his hands as they introduced themselves, which Naruto responded back in kind, while Yamcha's eyes grew big and he backed up in shock before going to Goku and shaking him like a rag doll as he asked several questions at rapid speeds. This caused the rest of those watching to be amused at the sight. After things calmed down, Kami got their attention and described to the others of Naruto's plan. They were impressed with Naruto's ability to come up with a great plan and complimented him on it, causing said person to blush bashfully and rub the back of his head with a big grin on his face. Kami then told them that Roshi, Krillin, Yamcha, Tien, Chiaotzu, Yajirobe, and Kurama would train at the lookout, while Goku and Naruto would train with someone he knew. When Naruto asked who was it that would be training him and his father, Kami answered that it would be a man named King Kai, who was stronger than himself, and said that King Kai would be able to train them into incredible levels within 1 year. Tien then asked why couldn't they all train with King Kai if he was so good, and Kami replied that King Kai's planet was 10 times Earth's gravity, and the only people capable of the gravity were Naruto, Goku, and Kurama. Before anyone could ask, Kami said the reason why Kurama is staying with them is because they would need someone to spar with who was at a higher level than them and who better than Kurama. Yamcha laughed saying how could Kurama be as strong Goku and Naruto. The answer he got was in the form of Kurama in a humanoid fox form punching him out of the building. When Yamcha came back, he glared at Kurama, who gave a smirk and told him, "Did that answer your question?" This of course shocked those who didn't know he could talk, but they got over it because there were other talking animals as well like Oolong and Pure. When the explanations were over, Kami grabbed both Goku and Naruto by their shoulders and disappeared while Popo gave instructions to the group. Kami with Goku and Naruto reappeared in another area and the Saiyan and half Saiyan looked around. They were shocked to see that they were a gigantic desk. As they were admiring the size of the desk, they heard a voice from behind them. Turning around, they saw a humongous man who was currently talking to Kami, sitting in a chair. Their eyes shined with stars in their eyes as they both thought that this was King Kai. Kami, though, broke that thought when he told them that the humongous man was King Yama, the one who judges the dead souls. They were disappointed to hear that, and Goku questioned why couldn't they train with Yama because he looked strong, with Naruto nodding in agreement while in the background, King Yama, who heard this, puffed his chest up in pride. Kami told them the reason why they couldn't be trained by King Yama was because King Kai was way stronger than him, causing them to be fascinated as they wondered who their trainer was to be able to be stronger than someone as big as King Yama. Eventually, Kami led them out of the building they appeared in and brought them to a long road that seemed to never end. Kami explained to them that this was as far as he could go and told them that they needed to take this path to get to King Kai's place. When Naruto asked how long would it take, Kami just replied that it depended on how fast you could get there. Kami left and Goku and Naruto looked at each other as they nodded and ran at incredible speeds on Snake Way. When they finally reached the end, which took them only 50 days 177 days originally in the canon, thanks to their training, they looked around trying to find it until they looked up and saw that a little planet. Guessing it was King Kai's planet, they both jumped as hard as they could towards it, which was a bad idea as their bodies suddenly grew heavier and they landed on the planet with a crash and a giant dust cloud appeared. The dust cloud cleared and they were seen struggling to get up. Eventually, they were somehow able to get up, though if one looked closely, you would see that their knees were shaking as they struggled to stay standing. Though, Goku was able to get up faster than Naruto because he didn't know that Naruto's weights already had 5x Earth's gravity, which was resulted in Naruto have 15x Earth's gravity on his arms and legs. They started to search around with their eyes as they could barely move until their eyes landed on who they assumed was King Kai, who was standing by a tree. King Kai was a very short blue-skinned round man with a pair of cricket-like antennae on the top of his head. He wears T-shade sunglasses and a black shirt that covers his whole frame, with a large Japanese symbol for World King in the middle of the shirt. King Kai watched as they struggled to walk to him, and when they were in front of him, Goku was the one who asked if he was King Kai, which he replied with a yes, and told them that he already knew the reason why they were there. From there, everyone's training was in progression. Gohan was running away from a dinosaur. Krillin was sparring with Roshi and Chiaotzu, while Yamcha and Tien were sparring nearby. Goku chasing Grigory with a hammer while Naruto was still trying to catch Bubbles with his GW on. Gohan and Piccolo sparring by an edge of a cliff, which Gohan later fell over as Piccolo threw him over and was forced to climb back up. The Z Warriors in the Pendulum Room, experiencing what it's like to face low-level Saiyans. Goku and Naruto sparring in mid-air as they tried blasting each other with their Kamehameha waves. Gohan practicing his Masenko attack that he learned from Piccolo, who was behind him watching as he destroyed a mountain. The Z Warriors meditating as their aura from their Kai started to appear while Yajirobe wasn't even trying and was actually sleeping. Goku raising his hands in the air as he practiced the Spirit Bomb, while Naruto was off to the side trying to stay in Kaioken longer than usual. Before they knew it, a year has passed and the Saiyans have arrived. "Daddy, what's that?" This was asked by a little girl who had brown hair that was tied up into 2 ponytails. The man, presumably the father, with a little girl who looked like any other businessman, looked towards where his daughter was pointing. His eyes widened in shock when he saw 3 objects heading towards their direction. Quickly grabbing the little girl, he started running for his life in the opposite direction in which the objects were heading. When the 3 objects landed with a crash, dust appeared everywhere and everyone in the city shouted in fright and shock. "What was that? What the hell? Did you see that?" When the dust cleared, some people cautiously approached the crater the objects created and some people suggested on what they could be. Oh my gosh. This was just like that one scene in that movie, and now, we're going to be attacked by aliens. Maybe they're asteroids from space that got too close and were forced to be dragged down by gravity. No way. Probably something that the capsule core the government created malfunctioned, causing it to crash land on Earth. Maybe you're right. Some people started to agree with what the last person was saying until they jumped back in shock when the three objects that landed opened up and three people, from what they were perceiving, came out. They were two men and one teenage girl. One of the men, the bigger one to be exact, was a tall, 6'10" to be exact, and muscular man who appeared to be in his mid-30s. He had a small mustache, black eyes, and was wearing battle armor exactly like Raditz, except the parts that were brown on Raditz was yellow on his armor. The other man was a 5'5" tall man with black eyes and black hair that stood firmly upwards and had an easy-to-tell widow's peak. He was wearing the same thing as the other man, except the black parts were white and was wearing what seemed to be a full blue bodysuit underneath. The girl was at a height of 5'4" with black eyes and shoulder-length spiky black hair. She also had B-cup near a C-cup breast and was wearing the female variation of what the men were wearing, except the places where they were supposed to be brown were black and the parts where they were supposed to be black were red. What they all had in common though was that they all had brown furry-looking belts around their waists and they had this weird-looking thing on their right ear as a red, green, and gray screen was over their right eye. They then, to the surprise of everyone in the vicinity, floated up until their feet touched the ground once again as the people back away from them. The girl looked around the area and was impressed with the structure and technology around them, but it seemed the bigger man disagreed with her opinion. The bigger man turned to the smaller one and asked. "Hey, Vegeta, can I destroy this city? The human stairs are bugging me." The smaller one, now known as Vegeta, just smirked an evil grin. "Go ahead, Nappa. Be my guest." The bigger man, now known as Nappa, grinned evilly as well. "Thanks Vegeta." The only female of the group was about to retort but was too late as the one known as Nappa brought his right hand out, which glowed with an orange aura, before he closed his hands, leaving only the pointer and middle finger out as he pointed up, causing a white beam to eject from the ground up, immediately destroying the city. When the beam vanished, the girl of the group gave a grunt in anger. "Did you really have to destroy the city?" Vegeta frowned at her response. "Now, don't be like that, May. It is not the way a niece of the Prince of Saiyans should act." The girl, now known as May, just grunted in response, causing Vegeta's frown to deepen as he turned to Nappa. "But I do agree that destroying the city was foolish, as we could have destroyed one of these so-called Dragon Balls that we came here for." Nappa brought his head a little down in shame. "Sorry about that Vegeta. I'll try to think before I act next time." "See to it that you do." Now, here Vegeta clicked a button on his scouter, causing numbers and symbols to appear as they blinked rapidly. "Let's see if we can find a strong power level and ask them if they know anything about these Dragon Balls." They stood there in silence until the screen over his right eye showed a circle with an arrow pointing to the east. There are two power levels of 2440 and 1962 in the east. Both are stronger than Raditz was when he came to Earth a year ago. Interesting, but it matters little as we can deal with them easily. Let's go. With that, the three Saiyans flew off in the direction of the power levels. Unknown area. Boom. 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 If there was someone in the area, they would hear several explosions going off seemingly out of nowhere. That is only if that person was normal, but if they were not normal, then it's a whole other story. The explosions that seemed to come out of nowhere were actually two people fighting at incredible speeds that cannot be seen by normal humans. One of the fighters was a 7'0" tall green man who was wearing a dark purple GI with a blue belt and pointed yellowish-orange shoes. The other fighter was a 4'0" boy with black eyes and black mullet-type hair. He was wearing the exact same GI as the other figure. These were Piccolo and Gohan Son Gohan in Japanese, respectively. Piccolo was about to deliver a punch to Gohan's stomach until he stopped and stood still, causing Gohan to stop moving as well. "What's wrong, Mr. Piccolo?" Piccolo grunted as he was a little irritated by how Gohan addressed him. He turned his head to the west. "It seems you still need training in sensing energy if you can't even sense the three energy signatures heading our way." Gohan blushed in embarrassment before he closed his eyes to concentrate. After a couple of seconds or so, Gohan finally sensed them. "You're right, Mr. Piccolo. The power levels are huge." Piccolo nodded in agreement. "These power levels are indeed enormous, which means these are the Saiyans that we prepared for, and I hate to admit that I would lose in a fight against any of them, but at least they don't know our true power level due to us suppressing it. Maybe that moment of surprise will help us in this fight." Piccolo took in deep breaths to prepare himself for the inevitable battle to come. He turned his head slightly to the south as he sensed 6 power levels also heading their way, but were closer than the Saiyans. It seems that the associates of Goku are here as well. Their power levels are really impressive. If I'm sensing this right, that fox of Goku's other brat is stronger than me. What the hell? After a few minutes or so, Krillin, Yamcha, Chiaotzu, Tien, Rashi, and Kurama arrived and landed by them. They all pretty much looked the same as last time, except Rashi, who had more meat in his body compared to last time where he was so skinny, you could see his ribs. Just imagine Rashi's body when he did a Kamehameha from Dragon Ball, but a little less muscle, and Kurama, who looked like a humanoid fox. Krillin walked up to the pair and grinned up at Piccolo confidently, not worried in the least about being attacked by the Namekian. Hey Piccolo. It's been a while, and it seems you've gotten a lot stronger since we last met. Piccolo smirked a little and said. Yes, I have, and you seem to have gotten stronger as well, human. Krillin's grin grew bigger and nodded. He then looked down at Gohan, and his eyebrows raised up in surprise as he sensed his power level. Wow, Gohan. You got so strong within only a year. That's impressive, but I guess I expect that since you are after all Goku's son. Gohan just blushed bashfully as he thanked the man. The others approached as well, and Tien glared at Piccolo. Don't think for a second that I trust you. Despite you helping us, that doesn't mean I'll forget the horrible things you have done. This caused everyone else to watch how this would turn out. Piccolo just looked at Tien and glared back at him. First of all, those horrible things that you say I did were mostly committed by my father. Second of all, you seem to have the impression that I care for your opinion, but I don't. I don't even care if you trust me. All you have to do is just work with me, and then after we're done, you can do whatever you want. Tien glared at him for a couple of seconds before turning his head away with his arms crossed as he grunted. Everyone besides Kurama breathed a sigh of relief that the conflict was over, while Kurama just shook his head. Humans. Never will I understand how they work. Piccolo nodded in agreement with that statement, while everyone else just sweat dropped. Piccolo looking around realized there was a couple of people missing. Where is Goku and his other brat? I don't see or sense them around here. This was answered by Master Rashi. Well, Goku and Naruto said they'll be here shortly, but we'll probably have to stall the Saiyan for a while first. This, although it didn't show on his face, made Piccolo feel slightly worried as he expected Goku and Naruto to be here. This might be bad. I'm confident that I can at least tie with weakest of the members, but the other two could probably destroy me. At least we have the numbers. They all then grew tense as the Saiyan finally arrived in front of them. Nappa looked at the group of Z warriors before he pointed to Piccolo as he looked at Vegeta. Hey, Vegeta, look. It's a Namekian. Vegeta glanced up at Nappa before his eyes landed on Piccolo, causing him to grin. Intriguing. If Earth has these Dragon Balls and there is a Namekian here, then that means the legends of magic balls on Namek that grant wishes are true. That means we can go there after we're done with this planet. While they had this conversation, Piccolo froze slightly in shock. Namekian? Is that what I am? In Kami's lookout, Kami realized how the creation of the Dragon Balls was thanks to the memory from his Namekian heritage. Vegeta, deciding to get straight to the point, pointed at Piccolo. You, Namekian. Where are these things you call Dragon Balls? I demand that you give them to me this instance. Yamcha, being slightly brave despite knowing he was weaker than Vegeta, stepped and asked. What are you going to do once you have them? I bet you're going to wish for that other Saiyan friend of yours, huh? Vegeta slightly glanced at Yamcha, who stepped back slightly in fear, before he looked at the whole group who stared at him fiercely, causing him to smirk evilly and chuckle darkly as he told them what his plan was that shocked them. There is no way I would wish back that fool Raditz. He's a disgrace to the Saiyan race and a hindrance. No, what I want is to wish for immortality. If you humans give them up without resistance, then we will spare you and your planet. This causes the group to look at him in disgust for not caring for his fellow race and rage, because they know for a fact that they would destroy Earth after they were done. Krillin spoke for the group and said. We'll never give you the Dragon Balls. There's no way we'll let a maniac like you be immortal. Vegeta's smirk grew more sinister. Suit yourselves, Vegeta looked towards May, be a nice little niece and plant the Cybermen. I believe there are 8 of them in there. 1 for each. They could prove to be some entertainment before we force them to give up the Dragon Balls. May just sighed before she walked up, causing the Z warriors to jump back and getting in a fighting stance, which made her roll her eyes at their reaction and crouch to the ground. Grabbing a blue jar from her left hip, she used her right index finger to poke 8 holes in a row and put a green seed from the jar in each hole before covering the hole. Standing up, May stepped back next to Vegeta. The ground started to shake before 8 green small humanoid figure with red eyes appeared out of the ground and stood in front of the 3 Saiyans. Addressing the Z warriors, Vegeta spread out his arms. These beings that we have here are called Cybermen. They will each face you one-on-one, then if you somehow succeed in defeating them, then you will face us. Well. Just as Yamcha was about to refuse, Piccolo stepped up. Fine. We'll go along with this battle of yours, but let us decide who goes first. Vegeta just smirked darkly. Well, of course. Glad you can see it my way. By the way, these Cybermen are about as strong as Raditz was except only a little bit higher. Piccolo turned around to be confronted with the others staring at him like he was crazy, except for Kurama, Gohan, and Rashi. Seeing that they didn't understand why he did that, he decided to elaborate. If we go along with this, we'll be able to stall them a little bit longer so we can give time for Goku and his brat to get here to help us. When we fight these Cybermen, we'll have to make it look like we're struggling or else they'll catch on that we're suppressing our levels. Finally understanding his plan, they all nodded agreeing it was a good plan and they started to decide who would go first then who would go after that and etc. When they reached the conclusion, Tien stepped up first, showing he was the first one going first. Let's do this already. Nappa just chuckled as he motioned for one of the Cybermen to walk up while Vegeta and May watched curiously. Vegeta turned on his scouter as he looked at Tien. His power level is around 1450. Looking towards Gohan, Krillin, Yamcha, Chiaotzu, Rashi, Kurama and Piccolo, Vegeta checked each of their respective power levels. Their power levels are 1962, 1350, 1327, 1296, 1275, 1864 and 2440. Strange how the boy has a higher power level than the humans, but I guess it's not that surprising since he is a Saiyan or half Saiyan, judging by his tail around his waist. After he was done checking their power levels, Vegeta motioned for them to begin. Tien vs Cyberman 1. The Cyberman gives out a shriek and rushes towards Tien, hoping to headbutt him in the stomach, but it was not to be. Tien calmly watched as the Cyberman run at him with speed that was a blur to a regular human eye, but Tien saw it as a snail's pace. Turning his body right, he easily dodged the Cyberman, whose eyes widened in shock, and elbowed it in the back with his right arm. When the Cyberman hit the ground and bounced up, Tien followed with a roundhouse kick with right leg, sending the Cyberman flying away, where it crashed into a rock not too far off in the distance. Bringing his leg down, Tien turned his body so that it was facing forward again and crossed his arms with a smirk. Is that all you got? If it is, then I guess this will be over in a couple of seconds. The Cyberman that crashed into the rock got back up and glared at Tien. Not wanting to be underestimated and to wipe the smirk of his face, the Cyberman decided to go all out. While off to the side, the Z-Warriors didn't seem to be that surprised, except for Gohan, who was in awe at Tien's skills, and the Saiyans were actually a little bit shocked at how fast Tien was able to damage a Cyberman without even moving that much. Vegeta and Nappa just shrugged it off as beginner's luck, while May narrowed her eyes. I don't think that was beginner's luck at all. I know I can't get a read on power levels without a scouter, but I swear for a second that guy's power level rose up higher than the Cyberman's by it 2 times. Was it my imagination? Back to the fight, the Cyberman shrieked even louder than before and was surrounded by a green aura. It then pushed on the ground as hard as it could to get closer to Tien even faster, which caused a small crater to form showing how hard it tried. Once it was close to Tien, the Cyberman initiated hand-to-hand combat with Tien at high speeds. Tien was slightly surprised at how fast the Cyberman got close to him, but was easily able to overcome that surprise because he slightly expected this to happen when he egged the Cyberman on. When the hand-to-hand combat started, Tien tried to make it look like he was slightly struggling to win because he didn't want the Saiyans to suspect that they were hiding their actual power when it could come in handy for a surprise attack. As they fought at incredible speeds, the Z-Warriors, with the exception of Gohan, and the Saiyans were easily able to track the fight. Seeing Gohan struggling to watch the fight, Piccolo decided to give him a hand. Gohan, said boy look towards Piccolo, I can tell by just looking at you that you are struggling to watch this battle. Instead of just watching with your eyes, use your Kai to sense their energies and keep track of them using that. Gohan immediately nodded at his words and concentrated on using his Kai to sense their energies. When he finally sensed it, he slowly but surely was able to finally see them fight. Getting excited, Gohan exclaimed. I can see it. I can really see it, Mr. Piccolo. Unknown to anyone there, Piccolo smiled as he heard these words. Great job, kid. The punches and kicks they were throwing were so powerful that it actually caused mini-like explosion, identical to the sounds that occurred when Gohan and Piccolo were training. After trading a couple of blows, they both landed one more powerful punch, with both right fist colliding, causing an even bigger explosion to occur, and both struggled for dominance, but soon enough, they both jumped back. The Cyberman could be seen with a bunch of bruises and was heavily breathing, while Tien acquired a few bruises himself, but they weren't as big and was only slightly out of breath. See the state of the Cyberman, Tien decided it was the perfect time to end it. Making it seem like a last-ditch effort, Tien appeared right behind the startled Cyberman and kicked him up in the air. As it was in the air, Tien brought his hands together and formed a triangle, pointing it at the Cyberman. Charging it with enough energy to make it seem like he wasted all his energy, Tien yelled out his attack. Dry beam ha! A bright yellow ball immediately formed within Tien's hand and unleashed a gigantic beam of energy that easily consumed the Cyberman. When the blast cleared up, it was shown that the Cyberman was actually alive, but barely as it laid on the ground, dying. Tien feigned exhaustion as he approached the Z warriors, who upon his return, congratulated him on his win. The Saiyans were mildly impressed with how well a human fought, but didn't think much of it because Tien's power level of 1450, which was higher than the Cyberman's power level of 1300. Although, Mei was the only one whose eyes were narrowed the whole time as she concentrated her attention to Tien. It seems like I was wrong. That man looks like he barely won, but why do I have this strange feeling of dread? It's probably nothing. Just overthinking is all. Hearing a pained groan, Mei disinterestedly looked down to see the dying Cyberman. Seeing the hope in its eyes, Mei shook her head in disgust in what she was about to do. I know this is wrong, but I have to do this in order to keep my image. I know these things can just be considered plants, but they are still life. All I ever wanted is just someone to fight who can actually be considered my equal. Not this unnecessary slaughter. Mei pointed her left index finger down at the dying Cyberman, and a pink ball appeared over her finger. Right before she fired the ball, she apologized to the Cyberman, and the Cyberman was immediately destroyed. The Z warriors looked shocked and disgusted at how easily the Saiyans treated their own comrades, while Nappa chuckled and Vegeta smirked. Well done, Mei. I knew you had it in you. I guess this trip to Earth finally brought out your dark side. Mei just looked at Vegeta for a second before turning her head away with her arms crossed. Vegeta just chuckled at his niece's antics before staring at the Z warriors. Now, who's next? Otherworld, 1 day and a half before the Saiyans arrive. The black spiky-haired man, who was at a height of 5'9", was holding their arms up to the sky as a whitish-blue aura surrounded their form, with the aura in their hands glowing more brightly than the rest of their body. The very earth beneath the man's feet shook, pebbles from the ground started to float, and the wind itself started to blow even faster at the amount of power the man was exerting. Above this man's form, around a couple of feet away to be exact, was an enormous blue sphere that shined almost as bright as the sun. The man held his arms up in that position for a couple of minutes until the aura around his hands started to dull, and then the aura around his whole body completely dissipated while at the same time, the enormous blue sphere above him got smaller and smaller, and when it was the size of a hand, it disappeared. The man dropped his arms, and his hands hit his knees as he bent over in exhaustion. Taking a couple of deep breaths, the man stood back up. Goku-san, Son Goku in Japanese, gave a big grin as he said. Ryu, I think I finally got the spirit bomb down now. I should probably tell King Kai. Goku put his left hand to his stomach as it gave out a growl. Scratching the back of his head with his right hand, Goku's grin grew. I should also eat while I'm at it. With his decision set, Goku proceeded to walk to King Kai's house, which was that far considering the size of the planet. A few minutes later, Goku arrived and saw King Kai seemed to be laughing to himself with bubbles jumping around as usual, and Grigory seemed to look really annoyed. Goku's sweat dropped as he came to the conclusion that King Kai was laughing at a horrendous joke that he came up with. Shaking his head, Goku walked up to King Kai, who stopped laughing and looked at him, and gave a grin. Hey King Kai. I finally got down the spirit bomb like you said I should. King Kai gave a smile and a pleased hum. Good, Goku. That's fantastic. With that move, you'll surely be able to defeat the Saiyans. Goku lost his grin, and his face became stern as he got serious at the mentions of the Saiyans and nodded, but was curious about something. King Kai, I've been wondering. How will I be able to use this against the Saiyan? Not that I doubt the power of the technique, it's just that it takes me a couple of minutes or so to just charge the thing. I don't think the Saiyans will just wait for me to charge the thing. King Kai also grew serious as he nodded at Goku's point, but gave Goku a reassuring smile. That is true Goku, but do not worry. I believe you will be able to come up with a plan to find a way to use the spirit bomb and beat those Saiyans. Goku's stern expression disappeared from his face, and his usually grin came back. Yeah, you're probably right, King Kai. Now that's settled, I'm hungry. You got anything to eat? King Kai's face faltered at his words, while Goku laughed as he scratched the back of his head with his right hand. When King Kai got back up, he just sighed and muttered something along the lines of stupid Saiyans and their hunger. King Kai then proceeded to cook some food and gave them to a hungry Goku, who immediately started to eat the food like a vacuum taking in dirt. As Goku was eating, he slowed down slightly so he could ask King Kai a question. Hey, King Kai. King Kai turned his head to look at Goku while washing the dishes. Where's Naruto? I haven't seen him in a week. King Kai gave a hum and looked back to the dishes he was doing as he answered Goku. You don't have to worry about him. Naruto went back to the place I suggested to him, which isn't that far from here, when he mastered the Kaioken and Spirit Bomb, which still surprises me on how fast he completed them. Don't you remember how he asked for a place to train with the same gravity as my planet, but needed to be bigger? Goku seemed satisfied by that answer, but he scrunched his eyebrows. Yeah, I remember. He always had this thoughtful expression on his face when we trained. Did you ever ask him why he needed some place bigger to train? Kai also scrunched his eyebrows in thought. I tried asking him, but all he said was that what he planned would be incredibly destructive if it worked. Unknown area, a few minutes before Goku was practicing. A teenage-looking boy, who was at a height of 5'5", wearing a gi, consisted of the colors black, was seen meditating on a rocky terrain. This boy had black spiky hair that went in every direction, 3 fox-like whisker marks on each of his cheeks, and a red tail wrapped around his waist. This was 11-year-old Naruto's son Naruto in Japanese, son of Goku and Kai and older brother of Gohan. During the 1 year of training with his father and King Kai, Naruto has improved a great deal. Thanks to the weights increasing the gravity around his arms and legs to 15x Earth's gravity, Naruto was able to get stronger faster than he would ever hope to on Earth. With his current strength, Naruto could carry 10 large-sized boulders with one arm easily. Along with the strength the GW provided him, Naruto gained an incredible amount of speed. In only 1 month during the 1 year of training, Naruto was able to run on King Kai's planet as fast as he could when on Earth. If one were to guess how fast Naruto was, they would probably guess that he was faster than the speed of sound, which wouldn't be far from the truth. This wasn't the only thing Naruto improved on as the year passed. Even though Naruto wasn't on Earth, that didn't mean that he stopped studying, and he came up with several types of inventions, with one that he planned to start on as soon as he got home, which he would call the gravity belt, or GB for short, that when activated would increase the gravity on the whole body, instead of just a specific part of the body. Naruto was also able to work on his Kai manipulation, and boy was he happy with the results. If one were to ask him what was his biggest accomplishment during the year, he would undoubtedly say Kai manipulation. After Goku and Naruto passed King Kai's task of catching bubbles and hitting Gregory with a mallet, King Kai gave them instructions on how to perform Kaioken and Spirit Bomb. Naruto was surprised and pleased to see that he mastered the 2 techniques within the first 2 months, making his father proud and slightly jealous of his knack of learning things so fast. When he mastered the techniques given to him by King Kai, Naruto started to come up with several ideas for new techniques to create, and he seemed to base some of them off the Spirit Bomb's form. That didn't mean that he neglected in thinking about other ways to use Kaioken, besides just doubling your power. No, Naruto came up with incredible amounts of ideas that it was astonishing. It wasn't really surprising tough if you thought about it, considering that he came up with several types of inventions similar to how Bulma created inventions. This led to one problem for Naruto. How was he supposed to try all of these ideas within only a year? That's when he remembered a story his father told him when he was little. The story of how he and his friend Tien Shinhan fought in the 22nd Tenkaichi Budokai and how Tien cloned himself, with the downside being that the more clones created made the user lose half and half of their power. Naruto, with his ability to learn things within a short amount of time, was able to recreate this technique and improve it. Instead of he and his clones being weaker when more clones are being made, Naruto was able to make it so that when he used a certain amount Kai to perform the technique, the amount of Kai would be evenly distributed amongst the amount of clones he planned to create. Due to how dense Naruto's Kai was, you can imagine how much clones Naruto was able to create when he first tested it out. The only downside was the clones would disappear with a strong hit. The best part of this technique was that when the clone was gone, all of its experience went to the creator, making Naruto incredibly excited, because if something that took 1 year to master would only take 6 months with one clone, having the time. Since he improved and changed the way the cloning technique was performed, Naruto decided to name his cloning technique the Shadow Clone Jutsu. After abusing the hell out of the technique for the remaining months, Naruto was able to create several attacks with his Kai, with one of his created techniques being his most absolute favorite. With all these things that occurred over the year, Naruto was incredibly confident that he was ready for the Saiyans. Naruto took a deep breath and opened his eyelids to reveal his deep blue eyes. Naruto stood up from his meditating position and got into a stance, with his knees bent and his arms at his waist with his hands and fists. His form was surrounded by a blue aura before it turned red. Naruto relaxed from his stance and looked at his form. He clenched his fists and started to perform katas for several minutes. After one more punch, Naruto dropped his arms to the side and looked at his form with a grin. Sweet. I'm used to the strain of the Kaioken and can easily stay longer in this form. Now to bring it to the next level. Naruto got back into his stance and charged his energy even more. Similar to how Goku was charging the spirit bomb, the ground under his feet started to shake, the pebbles on the ground started to float before being destroyed, and the wind started to blow even faster. Naruto yelled as his energy spiked up even higher than before, and the aura around Naruto got bigger. Soon enough, the ground stopped shaking and everything was calm again, but this time, Naruto was standing with a greater power level and bigger aura. Like before, Naruto did several katas for several minutes until he suddenly lost his red aura and collapsed to his knees. Taking a couple of deep breaths, Naruto sighed and got back up. Looks like I got a ways to go before I can stay in Kaioken X2 as long as I could with Kaioken. Deciding to end training, Naruto charged some Kai and flew away, heading back to King Kai's planet. King Kai's planet. Goku, who was standing outside, gave a pleased sigh as he patted his stomach with his right hand. That was a great lunch. Though, it can't compare to Kai's cooking. I can't wait to go back home and eat her cooking again. Just as Goku was going to continue rambling on how great Kai's cooking was, Naruto suddenly appeared in front of Goku's form, with a great big dust cloud forming, due to how hard he landed. When it cleared, Naruto was shown glaring at his father, who was sheepishly scratching the back of his head. Dang it, Dad. Why didn't you wait for me? I wanted to eat something too, you know. Goku just gave a nervous chuckle. Sorry son. Next time, I promise I'll wait for you. Naruto glared at him even more, causing Goku to sweat a little. That's what you said last time, Dad, and the time before that and the time before that. Naruto continued on and on as Goku tried to ask for forgiveness from his son. King Kai, after some time, came out and greeted Naruto and informed him that there was food inside, which immediately caused a dust cloud leading to King Kai's house and an afterimage to form. King Kai along with Goku sweat dropped at this action. King Kai shook his head with disbelief, but suddenly he froze and started to sweat, catching Goku's attention as he walked up to King Kai and placed his hand on his shoulder. Hey, King Kai, you alright? What's wrong? King Kai frantically turned to Goku, who was startled at his actions and practically yelled out. No, Goku, I'm not alright. This is bad. Really, really bad. King Kai continued to rant on how bad something was until Goku regained his composure and grabbed King Kai by the shoulders, staring into his eyes. King Kai, calm down. King Kai, stop panicking. Now that you're calm, can you tell me what's wrong? Why are you so panicky? King Kai bit his lip in nervousness and told Goku. The Saiyans are arriving tomorrow, Goku. Earlier than we thought they would be. Goku's eyes widened as he yelled out a what? Before he started to shake King Kai. What do you mean they're arriving tomorrow? How is this possible? King Kai, getting tired of being shaken, broke out of Goku's strong grip and tried to regain his balance as a wave of dizziness overcame him. When his vision and the world stopped shaking around him, King Kai answered Goku in a serious tone of voice. It's like I said, Goku, they're arriving tomorrow, and as to how this was possible, I don't really know, but there's no stopping it now. The only thing we have to do now is get you and Naruto on Earth as fast as possible to face these Saiyans. So hurry and inform Naruto that you guys need to get going right away. Goku's face grew stern as he nodded and quickly ran inside and informed Naruto of the situation, which made Naruto react by getting serious as well. After a couple of seconds, both Naruto and Goku were outside in front of King Kai, getting ready to leave. King Kai stepped up and told them of his plan to get to Earth fast. Okay, this is what we're going to do. Due to the arrival of the Saiyans being earlier than expected, we can inform your friend Bulma to wish for you guys to be on Earth with the Dragon Balls, so we won't have to. King Kai was cut off from Naruto, who was shaking his head. No, we can't let them use the Dragon Balls just for us to get there. Both King Kai and Goku looked at Naruto incredulously before Goku grabbed his left shoulder with his right hand, looking at him with questioning eyes. Why can't we do that, Naruto? With King Kai's plan, we can both be on Earth waiting alongside our friends to help them fight the Saiyans when they come. Naruto stared into his father's eyes and nodded in agreement to that point, but said. I agree, that sounds like a great plan, but you have to think ahead. What if the Saiyans destroy a city full of innocent people when they arrive? If we use the Dragon Balls, we won't be able to wish them back because we have to wait for them to charge. Goku winced as he let go of Naruto's shoulder and looked down in slight shame in not thinking about that, along with King Kai. King Kai sighed and asked Naruto what they think they should do. Naruto stared right into King Kai's eyes with a fire of determination burning within his eyes. My dad and I will fly as fast as we can to reach the end of Snake Way, and when we reach the end, we'll have Kami, who you'll inform to come to Otherworld as we leave, to be there to take us back to Earth. I'm sure my dad and I will get there on time with the training you provided with us and be there to fight the Saiyans. Goku and King Kai looked at Naruto in awe before King Kai gave a small smile and a nod in agreement as Goku smiled in pride at his son. You've grown so much in just 1 year, Naruto. I'm proud to be a father of such an amazing son. After they spent a couple of minutes refining the details of the plan, Naruto and Goku were off flying at incredible speeds along Snake Way. Pinkai, after he informed Kami of the situation, looked up where Naruto and Goku left as he thought. I wish you two the best of luck. You are the only ones who can hope to stand against those Saiyans. By the time Naruto and Goku arrived at the end of Snake Way, Kami informed them that the Saiyans were currently fighting with the other Z warriors, causing them to mutter out a curse. Kami, knowing the situation at hand, quickly grabbed both of them by their shoulders, and their forms were shrouded in white before they were gone in a flash. The next second they appeared on Kami's lookout and they didn't waste any time rushing towards the multiple strong power signatures, with both of them suppressing their power levels as low as they could get to gain the element of surprise. Both father and son had the same thought as they flew to their friends. Hang on guys, we're coming. Baron WASTELAND same time as the last chapter. Vegeta smirked arrogantly as he looked at the Z warriors, waiting for one of them to step up for the next fight. Nappa, being the impatient Saiyan he was, brought his head down so that he was near Vegeta's ear. Hey, Vegeta. Vegeta lost his arrogant look and looked up at Nappa with a scowl, showing how he irritated him. Sorry, but I was wondering, why can't we just kill them all now, instead of later? Vegeta looked at Nappa like he was the biggest idiot in the universe before sighing in annoyance. I see you haven't been listening. Listen well, Nappa, because I shall be saying this once, the reason as to why we are not obliterating their very existence is because it amuses me in how they believe they have a chance against us. That is why I set up this little tournament for a source of entertainment. Understand now, Nappa? Nappa gained a look of understanding before he smirked evilly. Yeah, I got it, Vegeta, but if they somehow manage to beat the Cybermen, can I kill them then? Vegeta seemed to gain the look of contemplation before he grinned. Sure, why not, but you will leave the Namekian alive. He will probably have the most knowledge of the whereabouts of these Dragon Balls. Nappa nodded and thanked him once again. As they had their conversation, May just looked at them in disgust at how easily they talked about killing before she decided to analyze the Z warriors. These Earthlings are really impressive and seem to be able to handle themselves against the Cybermen, but why does this feeling of anxiousness increase as time passes? She thought about it long and hard until she came up with a reason why she was feeling so afraid. Her eyes widened as she came up to one solution. Can they be stalling? Are they waiting for reinforcements? If so, who could it be? May brought her right hand up and pressed her index finger on the red button, causing the scouter to activate. Ignoring the power levels of everyone present, May looked around in all directions until her scouter picked up 2 power levels heading their way. Her eyes narrowed in suspicion as she read the power levels. 2 power levels of 2358 and 2196 are heading this way. They're weaker than the Namekian, but are they really? May glanced to the side where Vegeta was informing Nappa of why they didn't kill the Z warriors yet. Deciding not to inform them, May shut off her scouter and crossed her arms over her chest. Let's see how this will play out. After what seemed to be much deliberation from the Z warriors, Yamcha stepped up with his chest puffed out arrogantly. I'm next, so hurry up and bring it on. I'll kick that ugly green monster's ass faster than you can say ouch. Vegeta along with Nappa chuckled in amusement at Yamcha's proclamation while May looked at him incredulously. Krillin dragged his right head down his face and Piccolo and Kurama muttered something along the lines of stupid human. May shook her head as a Cyberman stepped up from the group. Maybe I was wrong. These humans can be so stupid. Yamcha got into his Wolfang fist stance and the Cyberman got into a charging position. Yamcha vs Cyberman 2. Unlike the last fight, this one didn't start immediately as everyone thought it would, considering Yamcha's statement. No, the two fighters stood there, staring at the other's eyes. The wind gave out a nice breeze, causing the grass to wave around. The breeze slowing, but surely, ceased and when it did, the fighters charged each other with a yell, where they met in the middle, punching and kicking each other at insane speeds. Their fight moved from side to the sky, then back to the ground where the cycle repeated. Punches were thrown and were either blocked or evaded. Kicks were sent in the middle of a combo trying to confuse the other, but yet again were blocked or evaded. Both of the fighters eventually gave out a punch with their right hands that clashed in the middle. As they pushed for dominance, lightning started to emerge from their fist and the earth beneath their feet gained craters which slowly grew bigger and got deeper. The clash didn't last long as both fighters jumped back. Yamcha was breathing a little faster than normal and had a few bruises here and there, but overall was fine. On the other hand, the Cyberman was seen breathing deeply and had more bruises on it than Yamcha did. It glared at Yamcha and gave out a shriek as it charged him. The Cyberman gave out a roundhouse kick with his right leg towards the startled Yamcha, easily connecting the leg with his stomach, causing Yamcha spit out some saliva in pain and sent him flying. It then disappeared and reappeared towards where Yamcha was flying and kicked him again with his right leg up, directly hitting Yamcha's chin, snapping his jaw close. disappearing and reappearing again, but this time above Yamcha. The Cyberman brought his hands together and when Yamcha was close, slammed its hands on top of Yamcha's head, bringing him back down to hit the ground with a great big dust cloud forming. The dust cloud cleared to show an empty crater, surprising the Cybermen and the Saiyans, since they couldn't sense the energy. The Cyberman looked around frantically, but froze when a shadow came over its form. It immediately turned around and fired a Kai blast with its left hand only to hit nothing. Its eyes widened in pain as it was hit in the head by a foot from behind, sending it flying. Yamcha, after sending the Cyberman flying, did what the Cyberman did before and appeared in front of its path and sending it flying again many times. The speed in which Yamcha did this slowly increased until it appeared as if the Cyberman was a ball in a pinball machine. After hitting the Cyberman around 10 times or so, Yamcha ended it by slamming it to the ground with a roundhouse kick from above, causing it to head to the ground. Yamcha then put his hands to the right side of his waist. The blue energy appeared within his hands as he said, "Ha." The energy formed a blue sphere in the middle of his hands. The energy got brighter with Yamcha charging more energy into it. Ha. It grew a bit larger that some lines of the energy slipped past his fingers. The Cyberman hit the ground and before it could get up, it was too late. Ha. Yamcha yelled as he brought his arms out, causing the Kai charging within his hands to burst out like a laser the size of medium-sized boulder. The beam traveled through the air at such high speeds that when the Cyberman looked up, the beam was already in front of its form and crashed into him. As soon as the Kamehameha hit the Cyberman, the area where the Cyberman was exploded, making the Z-warriors cover their eyes from the dust, while the Saiyans weren't fazed in the slightest. When it cleared, Yamcha was seen standing there triumphantly with the Cyberman behind him down. The Z-warriors, aside from Kurama and Piccolo, gave out a cheer and Yamcha gave them a thumbs up. "Like I said, I kicked that green monster's ass no problem." Meanwhile, Vegeta and Nappa frowned while Maya raised her left eyebrow in curiosity. Vegeta gave out a scowl while looking at the downed Cyberman. What a disgrace. A Cyberman losing to a measly human. Disgusting. Nappa nodded with a frown to his words, while Maya just glared at the back of his head. The other Cybermen looked at each other in slight fear when they now realized that the Z-warriors may be tougher to defeat than they thought. Unknown to them, the Cyberman that looked to be still unconscious was conscious and was gripping its fists tightly in anger. With this rage powering its form, the Cyberman surprised attacked Yamcha, who had his back turned and grabbed him tightly. "What the hell?" Those would be the last words he said before he and the Cyberman exploded. Vegeta and Nappa smirked at the sight while Mei and the Z-warriors stared in shock before Krillin was the one that yelled out the rest of the Z-warriors' thoughts out loud. "Yamcha?" The Z-warriors stared in shock at their friend's burning corpse, not believing that he was actually dead. Even after all the training they did, it didn't help prevent his friend's death. Gohan looked a little green due to never witnessing the death of another human being, and Piccolo, noticing this, told them that this was what the world was like and that he had to deal with it. Despite the words being harsh, Gohan knew that was the truth and started to accept that, but that didn't help the sick feeling he got. He felt incredibly sad because, despite not getting time to know Yamcha, he was his father's friend and the way he died must have been really painful. The other Z-warriors, besides Kurama, were more saddened by the death of Yamcha than Gohan. One was a teacher to the man, two were really close friends to the man, and the last was a fellow student to the same teacher, which made them brothers in a way. The sound of laughter caught all their attention, and they turned their attention from their dead friend to Vegeta. After Vegeta stopped laughing, he smirked. Now that Cyberman knew what he was doing. If you can't even defeat one pathetic human in a fight, you might as well kill yourselves while taking them with you. Nappa laughed at Vegeta's words, while Mei looked really disgusted. Nice one, Vegeta. The Z-warriors, besides Kurama and Piccolo who frowned, shook in rage when they heard how they treated their friend's death so nonchalantly like he was a piece of dirt. Krillin was the most angriest out of the group, second to Rashi, and glared at the Saiyans, specifically Vegeta and the Cyberman. "You'll pay for killing my friend." Vegeta laughed. "What makes you think you can? That human over there didn't even survive against one Cyberman, which is 10x weaker than I am." This caused Yamcha's death to flash in Krillin's head as he heard the Cyberman chuckle. Krillin's anger grew past the limit and he yelled out in rage. "I'll kill you all." The Z-warriors sensed the massive increase in Krillin's power and jumped back. Krillin roared as he stuck out his arms in front of him with his wrists touching and palms facing the Cyberman. Expanding energy wave. Out from Krillin's hands burst out a huge yellow beam that split off into 8 blasts that went for the remaining Cybermen and Saiyans. The Saiyans didn't even bother trying to dodge the blast and deflected it away, causing 3 explosions to go off behind them that blew up a mountain. The Cybermen were the unluckiest ones because, despite some trying to hide, the blasts followed their movement and 4 were destroyed. One somehow managed to survive, and after the attack was done, it saw Gohan defenseless as he looked forward. It jumped towards Gohan with its right hand stretched forward, ready to pierce his head with its claws. It was surprised when his wrist was grabbed by Piccolo, who glared at it and was instantly killed by a chop from the neck that made his head explode. Krillin was seen gasping as his arms were still stretched out with smoke coming from his hands. The others approached him, and Rashi put a hand on his left shoulder. At the same time, Tien put a hand on his right shoulder, with Chiaotzu behind Tien and Kurama standing with his arms crossed behind Rashi. Krillin looked up at Rashi, then to Tien before he brought down his head. "Sorry, guys. I know that the plan was to suppress our powers so we could surprise them, but I was just so angry at how easily they dismissed Yamcha's death." Rashi just squeezed his shoulder reassuringly while Tien smiled at him. "It's alright, Krillin. Yamcha would have been happy that you avenged his death, and I think it's time to stop hiding our powers and to get serious." "Tien's right, Krillin. You did the thing anyone would do when their friend has been killed. Besides, with the Dragon Balls, we'll be sure to wish him back and tell him we succeeded in beating the Saiyans." Krillin looked gratefully at them, and everyone instantly powered up to their actual level, causing the Saiyan scouters to act up. Vegeta watched as the scouters started to go through numbers until they finally stopped, and he stared in shock, along with Nappa and May, which she wasn't really that surprised because she guessed that they were able to hide their true levels, but was still surprised at what the scouters were reading. What is this? Their power levels suddenly gained a huge increase. He checked the power levels of Chiaotzu, Gohan, Rashi, Tien, Krillin, Piccolo, and Kurama. 2,400, 2,600, 2,850, 3,000, 3,300, 3,600, and 4,000. What the devil is going on? How could they hide this power? They suddenly got stronger, with a weird-looking animal being on par with Nappa at his base level. Even though the sudden jump in their power level shocked Vegeta, he wasn't worried because they didn't even come close to his or his niece's power. He chuckled in amusement. This is interesting. I won't ask how you Earthlings got so strong, but even with that, you still are no match for my power." May shook her head at her uncle's arrogance, but knew it was true. "Sometimes I wish someone would just kick his ass and get rid of that stupid attitude." Nappa, unlike Vegeta, wasn't amused, but instead, was furious that the Earthlings had about as much power as he did, which didn't sit well with him. "Hey Vegeta. Since the Cybermen are gone, can I fight now? I want to show them how powerful a Saiyan really is." Vegeta contemplated for a bit until he relented. "Alright, you can have your fun Nappa, but do not kill the Namekian. He probably knows where the Dragon Balls out of the rest of them." Nappa chuckled darkly as he approached the group while cracking his knuckles. "Sure, Vegeta. No problem." The Z-Warriors got into a stance as they prepared for Nappa. They tensed up slightly when Nappa powered up, with a yellow aura surrounding him, but panicked when suddenly he disappeared. They all tried to find where he was, but a shout got their attention. "Arm break." They turned to the shout and saw Tien with his left arm on the ground as he bled from his forearm. "Ah." Nappa chuckled as he watched Tien scream in pain and went in to finish him off, but Tien flew up to the sky. Tien, using his right hand, charged up an attack and was about to fire it down at Nappa, but Nappa was faster and flew behind Tien. Seeing that Nappa was going to kick down, Tien let his attack fade and swerved to the left to dodge it. But Nappa's kick missed, and using the momentum to dodge Nappa's attack, Tien roundhouse kicked him with his right leg, causing Nappa to fly away into a mountain, destroying said mountain. Krillin and Chiaotzu flew up next to Tien. "Are you alright, Tien?" Tien took some breaths before he answered Chiaotzu. "I'm okay for now. To be honest, I don't think I'll be able to fight for long before I run out of power." Krillin nodded. "It's alright. If you can't fight, then we'll just fight for you." Tien thanked Krillin, and suddenly, Nappa was seen flying towards them at fast speeds with a scowl. Nappa was truly enraged when he was knocked away into a mountain. Tien. He swore to himself that he was going to pay. "Prepare yourself, human. You're going to be the first to die." Nappa brought his left hand to his chest before sticking it out, aiming for Tien as a yellow Kai blast headed their way. The Kai blast didn't hit Tien like expected because Kurama, who was standing by previously, got in front of the Kai blast's intended target and deflected it away, making Nappa's rage grow. "Your fight's with me now, flesh bag." Nappa, identifying Kurama as the one who was the same level as him on the scouter, smirked evilly. "Ah, so you finally decided to fight instead of hiding behind your friends like you did before. Great. Now I have the pleasure of killing you." Kurama shrugged nonchalantly, not even terrified of Nappa's threat. "You can try, Saiyan, but you won't succeed." Kurama turned to the other Z-Warriors, with Tien using his Kai to burn the wound so it would close up. "You lot, stand back and watch. I'll handle him." Kurama vs Nappa. Nappa roared once again and charged at Kurama with his right hand ready to punch the fox humanoid in the face. When he got in close, his attempt to hit him in the face failed in the form of Kurama tilting his head to the left, but that didn't deter or slow him down, as he followed it up with knee strike using his right leg, which yet again failed as Kurama simply swerved to the right to dodge it. This pattern continued on and on with Nappa missing every time and Kurama easily dodging the attacks. As this went on, Nappa's rage grew with each of his attacks missing. Finally having enough, Nappa charged Kai into his hands and fired a barrage of Kai blasts at Kurama. Instead of dodging like before, Kurama pointed his 9 tails at Nappa's attack and fired his own Kai blasts that were orange with a red outline. The attacks met at the middle and exploded every time they touched. Nappa, while firing several Kai blasts, charged one Kai blast with more Kai than the others and threw it at Kurama, smirking as he thought Kurama wouldn't even notice while being preoccupied with stopping his barrage. Unfortunately for him, Kurama did sense it and disappeared before it could hit him and reappeared behind the shocked Nappa with a smirk. "Nice try, flesh bag, but you won't be able to surprise me with my superior senses." Nappa broke out of his shocked state and roared in rage as he swung his right arm back to hit Kurama. "You dare mock me, an elite Saiyan, I'll show you." Kurama just grabbed the arm with his left hand with his left eyebrow raised. "Oh? For an elite Saiyan, you sure do throw weak punches." Kurama's eyes narrowed. "I'll show you what a real punch is like." Kurama pulled Nappa in and punched him squarely in the face with his right fist, causing Nappa to gasp in pain, but he didn't let go. He continued to punch Nappa several times, even adding a few knee strikes and tail swipes, and when he seemed satisfied, Kurama let go of his arm, who slowly started falling to the ground and grabbed his legs with 2 of his tails. He then spun several times and released him, sending Nappa flying to the ground, creating a crater. If you thought he was done, you would be wrong. Kurama changed from his humanoid form to his natural fox form and aimed his head towards Nappa's down form with his mouth wide open. He then brought all of the tips of his tails to his open mouth and charged his Kai in front of his mouth. An orange ball started to form in front of his mouth that slowly shifted to crimson red, then finally to a purple ball, which grew in size as well when it was changing colors. Kurama fired his attack and yelled out, "Hail Beast Bomb." A humongous ball of Kai raced to the crater where Nappa was at, and when it made contact with his target, an equally humongous explosion occurred, causing a dust cloud to appear. When it cleared, the crater changed to a seemingly bottomless pit. Kurama changed back into his humanoid form and landed back on the ground near the Z-Warriors, looking at the destruction of his attack. "Even though this isn't the first time using the attack, I'm always surprised how powerful it is." The Z-Warriors stared in shock at the power of Kurama's attack, and Krillin chuckled nervously as he said, "Glad he's on our side." Everyone nodded their heads simultaneously in agreement. Mei stared with wide eyes at the magnitude of Kurama's attack and couldn't help but be impressed. Incredible. Simply incredible. If 1 year of training made them this powerful, I wonder how strong they could get in a couple of years. She shivered slightly in fear, but mostly in excitement at the thought of facing strong adversaries. Vegeta couldn't believe what he was seeing. How is it possible that these Earthlings got so powerful in just 1 year? It must be the power of those Dragon Balls. Vegeta thought more about it and decided to change his plans. If these Dragon Balls can give them this much power, then the ones at Namek should be several times stronger. Just got to deal with these pests. Vegeta looked down into the hole and yelled out, "Nappa. If you're still alive, forget my last order. Go ahead and kill every single one of them." He didn't get a reply at first, but when his scouter acted up, he smirked. Kurama, sensing a great power of Kai heading their way from underground, turned to the others and yelled out, "Everyone. Get away as fast as you can. There's a huge power of Kai heading our way from underground." The Z-Warriors didn't need to be told twice and quickly flew away, but Gohan, being too scared, temporarily forgot he could fly and tried to run away. Piccolo, being the closest to Gohan, saw this and cursed when he felt the blast getting closer. He flew to Gohan as fast as he could, but saw the ground starting glow yellow, showing that the blast was going to burst out any second. Piccolo roared and shoved Gohan just in time as a yellow beam of Kai hit him. Ah! The Z-Warriors, who weren't that too far, checked if everyone was there, but when they saw Piccolo and Gohan missing, they looked back to where they were previously and saw Piccolo being hit by a yellow beam of Kai with Gohan on the ground not far away, making Kurama easily guess what happened. Kurama cursed as he grit his teeth in anger. Damn it all. I should have predicted something like this to happen. Now we won't be able to wish back anyone. The other Z-Warriors also came up to the same conclusion, and Krillin cried out in despair with Roshi looking down in sadness, Tien digging his fingers into his palm so hard that it bled, and Chiaotzu was openly crying. Gohan, who got back up after being shoved, turned around and his eyes grew wide in horror as he saw Piccolo burnt and badly damaged while falling down the hole created by the blast. He ran as fast as he could, planning to jump and catch him, but Piccolo was already falling deeper into the hole. Mr. Piccolo. As Piccolo fell down the hole, he could only give out a small smile. Even though I was forced to train you, I truly enjoyed the time we spent together, Gohan. Your innocence made me so soft, but I'm glad. You were my first ever friend. But that thought, he closed his eyes as he died. At Kami's lookout, Kami was seen disappearing while Mr. Popo cried. Gohan didn't even register how all the Z warriors yelled for him to run away or how Nappa flew from the hole and was now in front of him. All he could think about was the times he spent with Piccolo. How he clothed him, fed him, and taught him how to be strong. Even though he was rough and stern, Gohan appreciated all effort Piccolo did to train him. When he heard a chuckle, he, almost robotically, brought his head up when he saw Nappa. Serves you Earthlings. This is what happens when you mess with an elite Saiyan. Gohan glared at Nappa with pure rage as he clenched his fist and grit his teeth. This was his fault. He killed Mr. Piccolo. He killed him. Killed him. Killed. Kill. 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 I'll kill him. Gohan roared as he charged, brought his hands together above his head, and a yellow aura of Kai glowed within his hands, preparing to fire the attack taught to him by his late master. Vegeta watched all this with a bored and semi-irritated face, but when his scouter acted up, he looked at it and his eyes looked ready to jump out of his eye sockets. This boy. How? His power of 2,600 went straight to 10,000. Seeing that Nappa was too close to dodge, Vegeta yelled out. Nappa, you fool. Block that attack. If you don't, you'll be destroyed. Nappa, hearing the warning, crossed his arms over his chest, just in time to as Gohan released his attack. The Senko Ha. When the blast was done, Gohan was shown panting heavily as he was on his knees while Nappa was seen standing, with his armor finally being destroyed after taking so much damage. Nappa was glad he followed Vegeta's orders because that attack, as much as he hated to admit it, hurt him badly. Tired of being damaged so much, Nappa glared down at Gohan. You little shit. I'm done with you Earthlings. Prepare to die. The Z warriors tried to rush towards Nappa in hopes of saving Gohan, but knew that they wouldn't reach them in time. When Nappa raised his right hand, Gohan closed his eyes while tears started to fall down his face. I'm so sorry Mr. Piccolo. Even my best wasn't enough. Daddy, big brother, help. Gohan winced as he expected pain, but after a couple of seconds when he didn't feel any pain, he took the risk and opened his eyes. What he saw made him cry again, but these were tears of joy. Naruto standing in front of Nappa holding his arm while Goku was standing protectively in front of him. Goku turned around and smiled kindly at Gohan while Naruto gripped Nappa's arm tighter. You did great, Gohan. Now let your big brother and daddy handle it. The Z warriors gained grins and smiles on their faces at the arrival of Naruto and Goku. Krillin literally ran at Goku and gave him a hug, Tien gave a huge smile towards Goku with Shiatsu right beside him, Rashi gave his old student a big grin, and Kurama nodded to the father of his best friend and partner. Goku, after he comforted Gohan, gave them a small sad smile. Hey guys, I'm sorry we're late, but we expected them to come later on, but their arrival surprised us. We tried to get here as fast as we could, but his face grew angry while the others grew sad, even Kurama had a frown on his face, Yamcha and Piccolo were still both killed. Now without Piccolo, Kami's already gone along with the Dragon Balls, so we can't wish them back. He clenched his fist and girt his teeth in anger and frustration as Kurama explained what happened, starting with how Yamcha died and ended with how Piccolo died. They felt so hopeless because they didn't know how to bring back their friends until Krillin remembered something Vegeta said. Actually, I think I know how we can bring them both back. Everyone turned to him and he said. I heard one of the Saiyans talking about a planet called Namek, I think. They said that's where people who look like Piccolo and Kami lived, so they probably have their own sets of Dragon Balls we could use. This brightened all their moods, and Goku gained a determined face. That's great, Krillin, but we're going to have to talk about that later. He looks towards that shocked faces of Vegeta, Mei, and Nappa, who was still in Naruto's grip. We still have to take care of the Saiyans. You guys stand back while Naruto and I handle this. Yan and Krillin stepped up and tried to convince Goku to allow them to help, but Goku shook his head. It's alright. Naruto and I can handle this. He takes a small brown bag from his left hip and hands it to him, take the senzu beans and hand them around to those who really need it and save the rest for later. Yan and Krillin were about to try and argue again, but Rashi prevented them from doing so by holding up his cane. Rashi looked towards Goku and gave him a small smile. If anyone could hope to defeat these Saiyans, it's Goku and Naruto. Let's just let my old student and his son deal with this. Goku gave his old teacher a grateful nod and the others reluctantly left with Gohan, Kurama, and Krillin still being there. Gohan stared at his older brother's back as he gripped onto the arm of the shocked Nappa, then looked up at his father with tears in his eyes. Daddy, they killed Mr. Piccolo. I don't want you and Big Brother to die too. Goku gave his youngest son a sad smile at seeing him in so much pain, but gained a grin that was filled with confidence as he ruffled his son's hair with his right hand. Don't worry about your brother and I, Gohan. We're super strong thanks to our training, so we'll kick their butts no problem. Gohan was about to protest, but Kurama's words made him silent. Gohan, trust in your father's and brother's strength. These two will be able to defeat those Saiyans. Can't you sense their true power? Gohan closed his mouth and concentrated on his brother and father and was shocked to see his father and brother have incredibly high power levels, with Naruto being even stronger than Goku. Gohan finally nodded in acceptance and Goku ruffled his hair one last time as he looked at Gohan with proud eyes. You have made me proud, Gohan. I can sense how strong you got with Piccolo's guidance and it is simply astonishing. Gohan lost his tears and blushed bashfully as he looked up at Goku with a big grin. Thanks daddy. Goku nodded with a smile and looked towards the Saiyans with a serious expression on his face. Now, you should catch up with the rest of the guys before you're caught in the crossfire. Gohan and Kurama nodded and started flying towards the others. Krillin turned his head one last time and said one last thing as he flew off behind Kurama and Gohan. We'll be waiting for you guys when you're done kicking their asses. Goku smiled to himself as he heard the words of his best friend. You can count on it. What they didn't know was that Naruto actually heard the whole conversation and smiled to himself. Gohan's grown so much since I last saw him. It's also great to see the others after so long. He frowned as he heard what happened to the Yamcha and Piccolo. Vegeta seemed to snap out of his shock and he quickly gauged the levels of Goku and Naruto. 2358 and 2196, but the other Earthlings just proved that they could hide their true power, so how strong are they? Meanwhile, Mei was also out of her shock and was also checking their levels, but she seemed to be concentrating on Naruto more than Goku. Their power levels on the scouter say that they're 2358 and 2196, but I don't believe that for a second. Also, I don't know why, but the boy, who looks around my age, I feel as if he's stronger than the two of them, but why? Nappa was also brought out of his shock when he saw Gohan, Kurama, and Krillin leave and immediately got pissed. He seemed to forget that his right arm was in the grasp of Naruto's own right hand. He charged a powerful Kai blast into his left hand and was prepared to launch it at the three. You think I'll let you escape my wrath? Think again. Unfortunately for Nappa, he was in the very grasp of the future's strongest Saiyan god. This shout gained the attention of everyone present, with Goku, Vegeta, and Mei watching on the sides. Naruto, who was watching them fly away with a smile, gained an angry scowl on his face at the shout and quickly turned his attention back to Nappa, who was about to throw the Kai blast at the three. He pulled on Nappa's right arm, startling said man, as his Kai blast dissipated due to the surprise of being pulled and kneed him in the gut with his right leg, still holding onto his right arm. Nappa gasped in pain and spit out some blood as he fell to his knees at the unexpected attack. He looked up and saw Naruto staring down at him with bored eyes. He glared at his new target and shouted. How dare you harm me, an elite Saiyan, you scum. I'll destroy you. Naruto lost his brood look and glared down at Nappa with such anger that it made him flinch. How dare I? No, how dare you? You have killed thousands of innocent people, including my friends, and have tried to do the same to my brother. As far as I'm concerned, you deserve it. Also, the only scum here is you and those other Saiyans. Vegeta frowned and glared at Naruto for his words, causing Goku to tense up just in case Vegeta jumped in the fight, while Mei flinched at being called scum and slightly brought her head down. Naruto's eyes grew cold and said. As for destroying me, dream on. Naruto vs Nappa. Naruto, within half of a second, switched his hold on Nappa to his left hand and brought up his right elbow and smashed it down on Nappa's forearm, cracking bones and making the forearm down totally useless. That was for Tien's arm. He let go of his arm and ignored Nappa's pained yell, who was cradling his right arm as he was still on his knees and grabbed his tail with his left hand before yanking it off, causing Nappa to yell out in outrage. Nappa opened his mouth and launched a yellow Kai beam attack at him and it hit, causing an explosion to go off. Nappa smirked, thinking that it worked, but his face morphed into a terrified look as he saw Naruto still standing there, with no scratch. Naruto grabbed Nappa's face with his right hand and jumped up, bringing Nappa with him, and slammed him head first into the ground, forming a crater. He got up from his crouched position after slamming Nappa to the ground and stared down at his groaning form. That was for Yamcha. Naruto grabbed Nappa's neck and pulled him out of the ground. He let go of Nappa and kicked him up using his right leg, hitting directly under his chin. His form disappeared and reappeared above Nappa's flying form. He brought his right arm back and when Nappa's face was about the same level as his fist, he thrust it forward, socking Nappa directly on the jaw, breaking a few teeth. This pattern of Nappa being sent flying happened of a while, making Nappa look like a pinball. It soon stopped when Naruto reappeared in the way of Nappa's path and started to punch and kick several times, breaking his other arm and legs. He ended it with an uppercut to his chin with his left fist. That was for Piccolo. He pointed his right index finger at Nappa's slowly falling form. And this, his eyes narrowed, is for my brother. A red and black ball appeared in front of his index finger before it expanded 10x its size and flew through the air as it beamed towards Nappa. Zero. Nappa stared at the approaching Zero before shifting his eyes to Vegeta. Vegeta, this boy is a monster. Help me. He's going to kill me. Vegeta seemed to notice Nappa's eyes on him and guessed what he was thinking, so he just gave him a cruel smirk. If you can't even beat a child of a common Saiyan, then you don't deserve to live. Nappa's eyes widened in horror and the last thought he ever had before being totally annihilated. Vegeta. After the attack passed, there was nothing left of Nappa at all. Naruto just stared at the where Nappa was destroyed before shaking his head and landed beside his father. Goku slightly flinched at how brutal Naruto was towards Nappa, but understood that the most important thing to Naruto was his family and friends, so if you messed with them, then you should expect a beating. Vegeta lost his smirk and stared at Naruto with interested look. Despite Nappa being an elite Saiyan, he still lost to this brat, but this brat is a Saiyan, if that red tail around his waist is any indication, so it's not that surprising, but how strong is he really? Mei was also having her own thoughts as she stared at Naruto with a small smirk. I might have found a real challenge for once. Goku stared at Vegeta and Mei with narrowed eyes and said. I suggest you two leave our planet and never return or else. Vegeta smirked at Goku. Or else what? Naruto answered for his father. Or else you'll have to deal with us. Vegeta stared at them for a couple of seconds until he started to chuckle which turned into laughter. Mei just rolled her eyes at her uncle's antics and crossed her arms under her chest. Vegeta's laughter calmed down and he stared at Goku and Naruto with amusement in his eyes. What makes you think I'm afraid of some common Saiyan and their half-breed son? Goku and Naruto glared at Vegeta and Goku said. You should be afraid because we're done holding back. Goku's body was surrounded by a blue aura and Naruto was surrounded by white aura, with both of their auras getting bigger. Vegeta's and Mei's scouter were activated and their eyes widened in shock. 3,000, 4,000, 5,000, 20,000, what the devil? How can their power levels be higher than my power level? Me, the prince of all Saiyans. 20,000 and 25,000, so I was right when I thought that the boy was stronger than his father, but I didn't expect this. Vegeta clenched his fist and grit his teeth as he stared in rage at them. How can you two have gained so much power in such little time? I demand to know as your prince. Goku and Naruto stared at Vegeta like he was an idiot and Goku said. You think we would be dumb enough to tell you how we got this strong? Vegeta's glare intensified and he gained a purple aura around himself as he increased his power. Fine. If you won't tell me, then I shall beat it out of you. He turned his head to Mei and said. Mei. You take care of the brat. I will take on the brat's father. Mei just gave a grunt in acknowledgement and he charged at Goku with his right fist pulled back. Goku watched as Vegeta's fist got closer to his face, but in the last second, grabbed his fist with his left hand. Staring into the shocked face of Vegeta, Goku gave a grin. Let's take this somewhere else. He grabbed Vegeta's arm with his right arm and turned around, tossing him towards somewhere they could fight with no one around. He turned his head to Naruto and gave him a thumbs up with his left hand. Good luck, Naruto. Naruto nodded and Goku flew after Vegeta. Naruto turned his eyes to Mei and Mei gave him a smirk as she said. It looks like it's just you and me now. Naruto punched his right fist into his left palm, cracking his hand. Looks like it. Mei got into her fighting stance, which consisted of her left hand in the form of a claw above her head, her right fist by her waist, and her left leg in front of her right leg. Naruto also got into his stance, with his right leg bent and his left leg stretched, his left fist near his chest, and his right fist pulled back. Before they started, Mei asked him a question. Before we start, why don't we introduce ourselves? I'm Mei, the niece of Vegeta, the one who went to fight your father. Naruto looked questionably at her, wondering why she would want to know his name, but decided to amuse her, seeing as she wasn't like her uncle or that other Saiyan he killed. I'm Son Naruto, the son of Son Goku, the strongest man in the world. Now that we're done with introductions, prepare yourself. Mei's smirk grew and she nodded. So his name's Naruto, huh? I'll remember that. Naruto vs Mei. Naruto rushed towards Mei and threw his right fist, aiming for her face or specifically, her temple, but she easily moved her head to the right. Naruto wasn't even surprised that she could dodge his attack and he continued to send out punches, kicks, and even some knee strikes, while Mei either dodged or blocked. In the midst of the fight, Mei's eyes narrowed in concentration and curiosity as she dodged and blocked his attacks. His punches are very accurate, aiming for vitals. If I haven't dodged or blocked his attacks then I would have been killed easily. Also, his movements don't waste a lot of energy. He's been trained well, but, she smirked, if this is all he can do, then he's bound to lose. Her eyes widened though when she felt something rough come in contact with her back and turned her head to see a mountain. She turned back to Naruto, who had a smirk on his face and had his left fist pulled back, with wide eyes. He's been leading me this whole time. She brought her head down and crossed her arms over her chest at the same time Naruto's punch came in contact with her arms. The sound of an explosion occurred and Mei was launched through the mountain and 2 other mountains after that one, while her legs were still firmly on the ground, causing a dirt path to form from where she was previously to her current location. Mei dropped her arms and looked across the field to see Naruto standing staring at her with his left fist smoking. She coughed up some blood and spit as she stared at Naruto with her still wide eyes as she took some breaths. He noticed how I was analyzing him during the fight and used that to lead me into a corner where he was able to punch me through 3 mountains. My arms sting and feel like they're going to shatter any second now. What kind of training did he go through to gain such strength? When she saw Naruto bring up his left arm and motion for her to come at him with his fingers, her eyes returned to normal and she grinned excitedly. This is the fight I've been waiting for. A person that can go toe-to-toe with me and actually make me try. Well, since he's been kind enough to show me what he's got, why don't I return the favor? Mei brought her arms to her waist and she roared as a dark pink aura surrounded her. She then bent her legs and pushed off the ground, causing a crater to form as her body flew towards Naruto. Naruto watched as Mei flew towards him and thought. From what she showed, I can tell she's incredibly skilled but can't use the ability to sense Kai to predict my attacks. Probably used to fighting at high speeds caused her to instinctively react. Along with this, her power is near my own. This could be tough, but I do enjoy challenges. Naruto grinned and flared his wide aura back on. When Mei was close enough to Naruto, they both yet again started a clash, but this time was at high speeds, throwing punches and kick as hard as they could, while their auras also clashed against one another. Their battle was so fast that they seemingly disappeared and explosions occurred around the whole area, with most of them coming from the air. Their forms were shown again in the middle, both containing some bruises and even some cuts, with their fists struggling to beat the other. Mei's veins on her forehead started to pulse as she grit her teeth, showing how much effort she's putting into her punch, while Naruto himself was in a similar state. When their fists started to release some lightning, they pulled their fist back at the same time and threw their other fist, causing them to come in contact again, where lightning burst from the contact as well as an explosion louder than before. They stared at the other's eyes, showing that they weren't going to give up. This caused them to have a contest of strength by kicking and punching at the same time, trying to outdo the other. After a couple of punches and kicks, they both realized how they were never going to get anywhere and quickly jumped back. Mei took some deep breaths and looked across at Naruto, who was sweating slightly, with her excited grin still in place. You are probably the strongest person I have ever faced, Naruto. Naruto stared at her, also with a grin on his face as he was actually enjoying the fight and saw that Mei was different from her uncle. I could say the same for you, Mei. I haven't met anyone as strong as me, aside from my father. Mei's grin grew at his response. That's interesting to hear, but let's see how you deal with this. She spread out her arms, with her palms facing him as they glowed a dark pink and brought her hands together, yelling out. Great devastation wave. A dark pink beam burst from her hands, heading towards Naruto. Naruto's eyes slightly widened at the power in her attack, but returned to normal as his grin on his face grew. He placed his hands at near his right hip as a dark blue ball of energy formed within his hands. The energy grew bigger faster than Yamcha's attack, and by the time Mei's blast was near him, he threw his hands forward. Kamehameha. The dark blue beam ejected from his hands and clashed with Mei's beam as they fought for supremacy yet again. Mei, seeing how closer her beam was to Naruto, roared as she put even more energy into her blast, causing it to grow. Naruto responded in kind, seeing as he was starting to lose, and his beam easily grew 2x bigger than her attack and took it over. Mei stared in shock, watching Naruto's attack head towards her, and before she knew it, she was hit by the beam. Naruto dropped his hands and stared at the dust cloud caused by the impact of his attack. When it cleared up, he slightly blushed at what he saw. Mei was seen standing with her armor almost completely gone, barely covering her modesty, bleeding from her forehead and wincing in pain. Naruto shook his head, clearing his embarrassment, and was about to make a comment, but suddenly sensed a huge power increase in the direction of where his father was fighting the other Saiyan. He, along with Mei who noticed him stiffen a little, looked towards where Goku and Vegeta was fighting and saw a bright white light in the sky. He gained a worried look as he thought. Dad. The ESERT couple minutes before Naruto's fight. Vegeta flipped in the air a couple of times until he was able to regain control of his body and turned around as he grit his teeth, staring at Goku who was still flying towards him. How dare that low-class Saiyan throw me, an elite Saiyan, like that? Goku landed on top of rock and stared at Vegeta in the eyes. Vegeta's face grew into an arrogant smirk. Although, I hate admit it, this low-class Saiyan is strong, so maybe I can convince him to work for me. With his plan set, Vegeta crossed his arms and said. If I remember correctly from Raditz, your name was Kakarot. Well, listen carefully Kakarot, because I will only say this once. Join me and together we shall rule over several planets. You can have anything you desire. With our strength combined, no one can touch us. What do you say, Kakarot? Goku stared impassively at Vegeta for a couple seconds and said. Sorry, but, Goku grinned, I have all I could ever want here on Earth, so I'll have to decline your offer. Also, my name isn't Kakarot. It's Goku, so I would really appreciate it if you called me by my name. Vegeta instantly scowled and glared at Goku with so much anger in his eyes. Does he think that he's better than me, the prince of all Saiyans, or is he just an imbecile? I tried being generous, but he outright rejects it. I'll make him regret defying me. So be it. Goku vs Vegeta. Vegeta rushed towards Goku with his left arm pulled back and threw it towards Goku's face, only for Goku to move his head to the left. Goku, after letting Vegeta's left fist pass by his head, brought his right knee up, striking Vegeta in the abdomen, causing said man to cough out some spit. Vegeta growled and unleashed a flurry of punches towards Goku, who dodged or deflected his punches easily, angering him even more. Goku then began to attack as well, throwing punches and kicks at Vegeta as they moved around the desert. Vegeta's punches would hit Goku in the shoulder, but they didn't do that much damage, as Goku would strike Vegeta in the shoulder as well. The difference being that Goku's punches actually did more damage. As their fight increased in speed and power, the damage to the landscape escalated. Boulders spontaneously exploded, craters were formed, and rocks were turned into dust. Along with their speed and power, Goku's and Vegeta's aura started to grow, causing some debris from boulders to float in the air. Goku, despite Vegeta being his enemy, was slightly amazed at how his power was growing each second that passed. Is he getting stronger as he gets madder? It seemed like a ridiculous theory, but Vegeta was proving the theory right. His power, which was around 20,000 before, was now around 25,000 and was still increasing. Goku's eyes narrowed in determination. Goku moved his head to the right to dodge the punch Vegeta sent to his face and sent a punch with his left fist into Vegeta's abdomen. He followed up with an uppercut with his right fist, making Vegeta's jaw close painfully. He continued to punch and kick Vegeta for several seconds until he roundhouse kicked him away with his right leg. Vegeta stopped his flight with his Kai, turned around, and stared down at Goku with rage burning in his eyes. He spit out some blood to the side and wiped his mouth with his right arm. I've had it with this planet. Ever since I came to this insufferable planet, my plans have been destroyed because of this low-class Saiyan. Vegeta brought his arms up from the left side as he glared down at Goku. Kakarot. I've decided that it was time for you and this planet to die. Within Vegeta's hands, a ball of purple Kai was seen to form that was steadily growing larger, as shown by some of it passed through Vegeta's fingers. Thrusting his arms forward, Vegeta yelled out the name of his signature technique. Alec Gun. The ball of Kai within Vegeta's turned into a large purple beam that headed straight for Goku. Goku stared at the incoming Kai blast with some worry. If that attack hits the Earth, the whole planet and everyone in it will die. I have to stop it. Goku brought his hands to his right hip and charged his Kai into his hands. The blue ball of Kai was formed and, like Vegeta, started to grow, but at a faster rate. At the moment Vegeta's attack was just a few feet from Goku, Goku thrust his hands forward, unleashing the Kai he was charging up. Kamehameha. The blue Kai blast clashed with Vegeta's attack and started to push it back. Vegeta's eyes widened in fear until they narrowed as he put more energy into his attack, but Goku just responded by doing the same thing. He stared in horror as the blast beat his own attack and hit him straight on, causing an explosion to occur. Goku let his arms drop and he stared at the smoke in the sky. Despite that having the energy to destroy a planet, I'm pretty sure that's not enough to take him out. Just like he said, when the smoke cleared, Vegeta was seen still flying with some scratches and some parts of his armor being gone due to the blast. Vegeta panted before he scowled. How is this possible? How could a low-class Saiyan best my strongest attack? He tried thinking about how could he beat Goku until he remembered something. How could I forget? I can just transform into an Azaru and end this fight. Grinning evilly, Vegeta looked up at the sky, looking for the moon until he saw that there was no moon. Vegeta frowned, but that didn't deter him that much as he could create an artificial moon. Bringing his left hand up, he charged his Kai into it, causing a white ball to form before he launched higher into the sky. The effect was instantaneous as his body started to get hairy and grow until he was the size of Mountai and don't know how big an Izaru. Vegeta laughed, which sounded way deeper than his usual voice, and stared down at Goku. You were a fool in losing your tail, Kakarot. If you had it, you could have transformed into an Izaru as well, but too bad for you. In this form, my power increases by tenfold. With this form, I shall destroy you. What he didn't know was that Goku didn't register anything that he said because he was having flashbacks of the past. He remembered how his grandfather was killed by a giant monkey, how a giant monkey destroyed Pilus Castle, and how a giant monkey destroyed the stadium at the World Martial Arts Tournament. Seeing this transformation, Goku realized that he was the giant monkey that killed his grandfather, destroyed Pilus Castle, and destroyed the stadium in the World Martial Arts Tournament. Due to this shock, Goku wasn't prepared for the giant hairy fist that knocked him through 3 pillars of rock, making him buried in a pile of rubble. Vegeta, after successfully landing a punch on Goku, laughed evilly. With this power, I'm unstoppable. The pile of rubble Goku exploded and Goku stood up, wincing when he felt the pain from Vegeta's punch. Damn. That punch was ridiculously strong. I think it broke some of my ribs. He shook his head and slapped his hands against his cheeks. Okay. Now that I cleared my head, how can I beat Vegeta? What could be strong enough to beat him? Goku's eyes widened before he flew up in the air, barely dodging the punch that obliterated the area where he was previously. After seeing Goku fly up to dodge his punch, Vegeta smirked, predicting this to happen, and smacked Goku with the back of his right hand, sending him straight into a boulder. Goku coughed out some blood when his body buried itself into the boulder before he forced himself out of the boulder, landing on his knees. He didn't have any time to rest as Vegeta was above him, preparing to step on him, and jumped to the right, avoiding the gigantic foot on time. Goku, wanting to gain some distance, activated his Kaioken and flew a great distance away before his Kaioken deactivated and fell to the ground in exhaustion. If this keeps up, I won't have any energy left to fight and I'll die. What am I going to do? Vegeta grinned, feeling joy in seeing how superior he was over Goku, and even chuckled watching Goku fly away. Yes, this is how it should be. Low-class Saiyans like Kakarot fearing and running away from the elite Saiyans such as myself, but his effort will all be in vain, because in the end, he will be destroyed by my hands. Vegeta's grin grew and he flew over to Goku, easily catching up to him due to his size. Staring down at the down form of Goku, Vegeta got down to pick him up with his right hand. He wasn't prepared for Goku to turn on his back with his hands on his face, yelling out. Solar flare. Vegeta roared in pain, covering his eyes with his hands, when a bright white light flashed in his face. Goku quickly got up to his feet and flew to the top of a rock nearby, with his arms towards the sky. The blue ball formed above him and white particles of light was shown coming from every living thing towards the ball, increasing its size steadily. Come on. Why can't this thing charge up faster? Goku just hoped that he would have enough time to charge his attack. Unfortunately for him, Vegeta was able to regain his vision and saw what Goku was doing. Vegeta opened his mouth and a yellow beam, similar to how Nappa attacked Naruto, launched from his mouth, striking Goku's whole body. Ah. Goku, due to Vegeta's attack, lost most of the energy he was charging up and collapsed to the ground in exhaustion. Vegeta, wanting to see him in more pain, lifted his right leg and crushed Goku's legs, making him yell out in even more pain. He then picked Goku's body with his left hand and brought his hands together, with Goku in between his hands. Vegeta stared at Goku's squirming form with a scowl. For all the pain that you have dealt me, you shall pay the price with your life. He started to crush Goku within his hands, causing Goku to yell out in pain. Goku, thinking he was going to die, closed his eyes and thought. I'm sorry, Naruto, Gohan, Kai, everyone. I failed. Vegeta could feel how close he was to killing Goku and was grinning until he was struck in between the eyes. Roaring in pain, he looked for whoever dared strike him and saw Naruto in between his arms. Naruto pulled his right arm back when he was in front of Vegeta's right forearm and struck him as hard as he could. This made Vegeta release Goku to cradle his arm with his left hand. This all happened within 3 seconds. Feeling that he wasn't in Vegeta's grasps and someone was holding him up with his left arm over their shoulder, Goku opened his eyes and stared at his savior in shock. Naruto. Naruto turned his eyes away from Vegeta and stared down at his dad in worry. Are you alright, Dad? Goku sighed and smiled up at him. I'm fine, Naruto. Thanks for the help. Naruto smiled at his dad and said. Of course. Naruto descended to the ground and gently let down his dad onto the ground. Rest here, Dad. I'll handle the rest. Goku nodded and closed his eyes. Standing back up, Naruto turned around and stared towards Vegeta, who was still cradling his arm, with Mei, who transformed into an Izaru as well, next to him with narrowed eyes. I'm guessing that those giant monkeys are Vegeta and May, based on their clothing, but how did they transform? He noticed how brighter it was above them, so he looked up, and when his eyes came in contact with the bright white light, he felt his whole body freeze and his heart start to beat like crazy. He suddenly lost his ability to think rationally, and his body started to gain red hair all over his body and grow bigger, causing his clothes to be ripped and fall to the ground. Vegeta and May stared at Naruto's form in horror and noticed that his body was different from theirs. Naruto's body was more lean, showing the muscle under the hair that covered his body, taller than both of them, and his eyes were pitch black. Naruto, due to this being his first time transforming, had no control over his body, so the only thing he wanted to currently do is destroy everything within his sights, which were currently May and Vegeta. Naruto brought his head up and roared an unholy demonic roar. Naruto let his head back down after letting out a roar, and his black eyes glared at the other two Uzuris, which were a bit smaller and rounded than he was, as he growled at them. Vegeta and May could only stare in shock at Naruto's form. I can't believe I forgot about the low classes spawn. Even if he's half human, he's still a Saiyan, which means he can transform into an Azaru as well. How could I be so careless? Why is his Azaru form so different from ours? From his build, it seems that it was built for speed instead of strength. Also, why do I feel that his power is stronger than mine and Uncle's power combined? They were forced out of their thoughts by the exact same person they were thinking about as Naruto's form rushed towards them at speeds, which should be impossible for a being his size. Vegeta, thanks to several years of experience and feeling of dread, brought up his arms in a cross unconsciously. This was a smart yet dumb move in his part as Naruto's right fist collided with his arms, causing the bones in Vegeta's arms to be cracked from the force behind it and for the prince himself to crash through several pillars of rocks before finally stopping when he crashed into a mountain. Luckily, their fight was a great distance away from where Goku was resting. Maze could only widen her eyes as she was directly to the right of Vegeta when this happened. He's so fast. How can he be this fast in his Azaru form? May understood at that moment that she and her uncle stood no chance against him, even if they worked together. Knowing that fighting in close combat was pointless, May jumped back several feet and charged Kai into her hands, causing a pink aura surround her hands. She then released all that energy in the form of several Kai blast attacks towards Naruto's body, who still had his arms stretched out from punching Vegeta. Her attack was a success as she watched several explosions go off against his body and form a dust cloud. She gained some hope when she saw her attack come in contact with Naruto, but that soon disappeared and was replaced with fear when it revealed that Naruto wasn't even damaged. Naruto felt great satisfaction when he punched Vegeta, but was soon irritated when he felt several explosions go off on his back. They didn't really hurt him, but it did piss him off enough to find out who did it. Naruto let his right arm drop and turned around, looking for the culprit before his black eyes landed on Mei's form, who could only stare at him in fear with smoking hands. Naruto growled before he opened his mouth, revealing a dark red energy within the back of his throat. Mei could only say one thing when she saw this. Oh shit. With Kurama, Gohan, and Krillin. As the three flew towards Goku's house to tell Kai was going on, Gohan couldn't help but worry for his brother and father. Krillin, who was flying by Gohan's left side, patted him on the shoulder, getting said boy to look at him, and smiled. Don't worry about your brother and dad, Gohan. Those two are the strongest people in our world. If anyone can beat those Saiyans, it's those two. Gohan was a bit relieved, but still had a worried look on his face. What if the Saiyans have some kind of trick up their sleeves? Kurama, who was flying by Gohan's right side, smacked the boy in the back of his head, making Gohan let out a small ouch. Don't be so worried, brat. Even if they do have a trick up their sleeve, Naruto and Goku are sure to find a way to beat them. Gohan seemed to finally be convinced when he looked like he was going to smile, but that dropped when they saw a bright dark red light behind them and heard a humongous explosion. Gohan stopped in the middle of the air before turning around, determined to help his brother and father. He was stopped by Krillin, who had a worried face, when the bald man grabbed his left arm with his right hand. Gohan. Don't act so reckless. If you go back there without a plan, you'll just end up getting killed. Gohan tried shaking the man's hand off as he shook his head. I don't care. I can feel that my daddy and big brother are in trouble. I want to help. Knowing how stubborn Goku was when he was younger, Krillin let out a sigh before his face turned serious. Alright, we'll go back to see if we can help in any way. Gohan seemed ready to cheer, but Krillin decided to give a warning. But if I see that it's too dangerous, I want you to fly away as far as you can. Do you understand? Gohan reluctantly nodded and Krillin nodded, satisfied. Krillin turned towards Kurama, who was staring at the direction of Naruto's battle with narrowed eye, and said. Kurama, can you please fly back to Goku's house and tell Kai what's going on? I have to keep an eye on Gohan so he doesn't get hurt. Kurama nodded in acceptance. Alright, but be careful. Krillin nodded and Kurama continued towards Goku's house. Krillin turned back to Gohan and let go of his arm. Nodding at each other, they both flew towards the fight with the Saiyans. Back to the fight. After Naruto let out a Kai Blast attack from his mouth, Mei, in an act of desperation, launched Kai Blast of her own from her mouth, which collided with Naruto's own. The two blasts seemed to be in a stalemate for a few seconds, but eventually, Naruto's Kai Blast proved to be superior as it beat Mei's Kai Blast and hit Mei directly in the chest. She, like her uncle, was sent flying and crashing through several rock pillars, but instead of crashing into mountain, she was kicked in a different direction by Naruto himself. Naruto felt sadistic pleasure as he kept on kicking Mei back and forth like a pinball in the air, with only one thought motivating his actions. Kill. 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 Vegeta groaned in pain as he was finally able to rip himself off the mountain he crashed into and glared bloody daggers at Naruto. How can a spawn of a low-class Saiyan have so much power? I will force the answer out of him before I eradicate his whole existence. With that thought in mind, Vegeta let out a roar and flew towards Naruto as fast as he could. Naruto gave a final kick to Mei's back, causing the girl to crash into the rocky ground and be knocked out as shown when she started to shrink and stay unmoving in a humongous crater. He looked towards the power signature he felt was heading his way and saw Vegeta spying towards him. Vegeta pulled back his left arm before sending his left fist towards Naruto's right cheek once he was close enough. He smirked when he saw it come in contact with Naruto's cheek, but he gained a horrified face as he discovered something. Naruto had let him punch him and the punch didn't even affect him at all. For Naruto, the feeling he got from Vegeta's punch was the same feeling he got from Mei's Kai attacks. Irritation and annoyance. Naruto decided to end this and grabbed Vegeta's fist with his left hand, moving away from his face. He gripped Vegeta's fist until he heard bones break, causing the prince to let out a shout in pain. Naruto caused Vegeta even greater pain when he, while still having his hold on Vegeta, broke the rest of his bones in his left arm with his right elbow. He let go of his hand and punched him straight in the gut with his left fist, making Vegeta spit out some blood and fall to his hands and knees. Vegeta couldn't believe how fast he was taken down. After his fist hit Naruto's cheek, Vegeta was subjugated to several amounts of pain when the bones in his left hand were shattered by Naruto's grip, followed up with the bones in the rest of his arm to be obliterated by Naruto's right elbow, and ended with a punch to the gut that made his organs feel like mush. Vegeta could only stare up in fear at the being in front of him, who only stared down at him with bored black eyes. He is a monster. I don't even think Frieza could stand a chance against him. If he's this strong with a year of training, how strong will he be in a couple of years? Vegeta, at that moment, felt true fear of the being in front of him, even more so than Frieza. Naruto looked towards the Vegeta's tail and, for some reason, even though his mind was still overcome with rage, knew that it was the source of Vegeta's power. So with his incredible strength, he gripped the tail with both his hands and ripped it off of Vegeta, who widened his eyes in pain and despair. No. This made Vegeta's body shrink and lose fur before he was back in his normal body with several injuries, such as cuts and bruises on his person. Naruto dropped the tail to the ground and destroyed it with a small Kai Blast using his right hand. When it was destroyed, Naruto hit both his fists against his chest and roared into the sky in victory. Ruoer. This, of course, let out a great shockwave that dispersed the clouds above him. Vegeta, who was lying on his back, could only watch this take place as he suffered from the pain of his injuries. When he finally stopped roaring, Naruto looked around to see if he had any more opponents to face. Seeing no more, Naruto got mad at not being able to fight anyone and started to destroy the area around him with kicks, punches, and even small Kai Blasts. With Goku. Goku was awakened from unconsciousness when he felt Naruto's Kai start to increase as he got angrier. Sensing that Vegeta and Mei were unable to fight, Goku tried to telepathically tell Naruto to stop. With Naruto crushed another boulder to smithereens with his left fist before he heard a voice in his head. Naruto. Snap out of it. You already beat the Saiyans. Control yourself before you destroy everything in sight. Naruto temporarily stopped moving and wondered who the voice belonged to, but knew that it was familiar. Naruto. Son. I know you. You're not like this. You have to regain control or else you'll end up losing yourself. Naruto slowly started to remember who the voice was as he dropped his arms to the side. His mind slowly but surely was losing all the anger it gained from the transformation as it replied to the voice. Father. Yes son. It's me, your father. Where are you? I'll tell you later, son, but right now I need you to regain control of your body. My body? Naruto suddenly shut his eye and grit his teeth as he grabbed his head with his hands. Destroy, 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 destroy. No, don't listen, Naruto. You got to fight the urge. Come on, son. Naruto roared in pain at the headache he received by trying to fight his primal urges to destroy everything in sight. I'm trying, father. It hurt so much. I know, son, but I know you can do it. Just try to remember the feeling you get from meditation. Naruto did as his father told him and took several deep breaths. He recalled the feeling of peace when he meditated and also the feeling of his Kai flowing smoothly through his veins instead of flowing erratically when angry. After a while, the thoughts of destroying everything on sight dwindled to a whisper before disappearing altogether. Naruto slowly dropped his arms to his side and opened his eyes, revealing his black eyes to have gained a blue tint to them. Naruto looked down at his form before bringing his hands in front of him. He closed and opened his hand several times to see if he was in full control of his body again. When he saw that he did, Naruto tried to tell his father he did it by thinking. Father, I did it. I was able to regain control of my body. I know, son. I felt your Kai calm down from here. I'm so proud of you, son. Naruto felt bashful and scratched the back of his head in the typical Goku fashion. Thank you, father. Naruto heard his father chuckle from the telepathic connection. No problem, son. Naruto looked around him to see the damage he did while overcome with rage. He winced when he saw several craters and broken mountains and boulders lying around the whole area. Suddenly, Naruto blinked as he recalled the memories of the fight and how it ended. Naruto narrowed his eyes and stared down at Vegeta, who stared into his eyes and chuckled before coughing out some blood. It seems that you were able to overcome all your anger and gain control of your Azaru form. That's pretty impressive for someone who transformed for the first time. Naruto crouched and moved his head forward so that his face was close to Vegeta's body. It appears so. Father, what should I do with the Saiyan? With Goku? Goku thought about Naruto's words for a while and wondered what should he tell Naruto. If it weren't for Naruto and myself, the earth would have probably been destroyed by now. The girl Naruto fought doesn't seem to like the thought of senseless destruction, but Vegeta showed he wouldn't hesitate to kill me. Although, Vegeta's power is so close to mine that I might be able to gain a rival I can fight on equal footing. Of course, even when injured, all Goku could think about was fighting. But that thought, he told Naruto what to do. But Naruto. Naruto, I want you to let Vegeta go. Naruto's eyes widened at his father's words as he stood up. But father. He nearly killed you and would probably kill everyone else on Earth if he had the chance. Why would you want someone like that to live? I have a feeling that he can change, Naruto. It may not be now, but I believe in the future, he will change for the greater good. Naruto just gained a deadpan look on his face, which is pretty amusing in his Azaru form. You just want someone to fight with, don't you? He could literally see a mental picture Goku scratching the back of his head. You got me there, but I really do believe that he can change. Just call it a gut instinct. Naruto sighed and sometimes cursed his father's forgiving nature, but would trust his father's word. Alright, father. I listen to you, but if in the future he doesn't change, I won't hesitate to end him. Goku accepted his words, and Naruto brought his right hand to pinch the bridge of his nose. What Naruto didn't realize while he was conversing with Goku was that Vegeta took out a remote from his armor and pressed it, which alerted his pod to come to his area. Vegeta let a smirk appear on his face as he stared at the sky. Fool. As he continues to let himself get distracted, I can use this time to escape and get healed, where I'll be several times stronger. Naruto stared down suspiciously at Vegeta, who had a smirk on his face. Before he could dwell on it, he felt the Kai signatures of his brother and Krillin close to his location. Father, it appears Krillin and Gohan are heading my way. That's good. When they get there, can you get Krillin to pick me up cause I can get up right now? Naruto gave a quick affirmative through the telepathic link before he stared at the direction Krillin and Gohan were approaching from. When the Krillin and Gohan finally arrived, they stared fearfully at the gigantic beast before them and wondered where were Goku and Naruto. Naruto, seeing them being terrified by his appearance, brought up his hands in peace. Gohan, Krillin, it's me, Naruto. You don't have to be scared. Gohan and Krillin's eyes widened in shock before Gohan hesitantly got closer to Naruto's face. Be big brother. Naruto smiled softly at Gohan and patted him gently on the head with his humongous left index finger. Yes, Gohan. I know it's hard to believe, but it's really me. You don't have to worry, I'm in full control. Gohan stared in admiration at his brother, while Krillin dropped his jaw in shock. How come Naruto can control this form when Goku couldn't as a kid? Actually, Krillin's face gained a confused look, how did he even transform? The moon was destroyed. Deciding to ask, Krillin got Naruto's attention. Hey Naruto. How did you even transform in the first place? The moon was destroyed and it's still daytime. Naruto quirked an eyebrow in thought before he remembered how. His eyes widened in alarm as he remembered a crucial fact. Gohan had a tail. He frantically looked around the sky until his eyes landed on the wide orb of energy Vegeta released into the sky. Krillin got worried slightly at Naruto's frantic movements and decided to ask him about it. "Naruto, is something the matter?" Gohan frowned and before he moved next to the left side of his brother's head. He looked at his brother's head move around until it stopped moving altogether. Seeing his brother's eyes land on something, he asked him. "What are you looking at, big brother?" Naruto heard the question from his younger brother and immediately turned his head to the left, seeing Gohan moving his head to look at the object that caused his transformation. He knew that a verbal warning was too late and tried to bring his right hand up as fast as he could to block the view. Only for him to be a fraction late as Gohan's eyes turned red. He cursed and turned to Krillin, who could only watch in fear. "Naruto, what's going on? He's about to transform like me." "What?" Naruto saw Gohan's clothes rip from his peripheral vision as it slowly started to get bigger and hairier. "Krillin, there's no time to explain, but I need you to grab the Saiyan on the floor and take him to where my father is." "But He was cut off by Naruto, who knew that Krillin would only end up getting hurt if he stayed. "Just do it, Krillin." Krillin recoiled slightly before nodding and flew down, grabbed Vegeta, and flew to Goku's Kai signature. Naruto turned his attention back to his brother, who was halfway through his transformation. Naruto waited patiently for his brother to fully transform, not wanting to remove his tail during his transformation in fear of causing side effects. It took a couple seconds, but Gohan was fully transformed into an Izaru, who looked exactly like Mei and Vegeta did, except that he had no clothes. Gohan beat his fists against his chest and roared. Naruto knew that he had to act fast and that there was no reasoning with Gohan because he's never learned how to truly meditate, so he wouldn't be able to gain control. Naruto tried to grab Gohan's tail as fast as he could, but he was too slow to as Gohan sent his tail away from his reach and hit him with a punch to the face with his right fist. Naruto cursed as he got back up from Gohan's punch. "Damn it. Even though I got control of this form, I'm still not used to moving in this body." He brought up his arms and got into a basic fighting stance. "I guess the only thing I can do to get used to this form is by practice." Gohan saw Naruto get into a fighting stance and instantly rushed towards him, ready to destroy him. Naruto also rushed towards Gohan so that he got a better feel of his legs and started close combat with Gohan. While Gohan's punches and kicks were random, they were still slow and Naruto took that chance to block each attack. As their fight progressed, Naruto's movement slowly started to increase in speed and power before he finally got used to moving in his Izaru form. "Alright, I'm finally used to moving. All that's left is to knock Gohan out." Naruto caught Gohan's left fist in his left hand and pulled while moving to the side. When Gohan's head passed Naruto, Naruto gave a quick but strong chop to the back of Gohan's neck, knocking him unconscious. This in turn made Gohan's body return to normal. Naruto sighed in relief before picking up Gohan. Just as he was prepared to go to where his father was, Naruto looked towards where Mei's unconscious form was. Coming to a decision, Naruto ran to his destination. With Goku and Krillin. While Naruto fought Gohan, Goku was explaining why Krillin was tasked to bring Vegeta to him and why he was still alive. Krillin, of course, got angry at Goku for his reason. "Goku? I know you love to fight, but this is crazy. This guy would kill us without a second thought and you want to let him live so you can fight him again." Goku sighed, expecting this reaction from his friend. "I understand why you feel this is insane, but I have a feeling that he can change for the better." Krillin, if he had hair, would most likely be ripping it from his head in frustration, but sighed, knowing that arguing with his stubborn friend was pointless. "Fine, you win, Goku. I promise not to do anything to him, but I don't think he can change like Piccolo did." Goku frowned a bit at the thought of his old enemy who died protecting his son before he gave a small smile. "Thank you, Krillin. I promise you won't regret this." The two were startled when they heard a sound of something rushing through the air and saw one of the space pod the Saiyans arrived and flying towards them. They watched it land a few feet away from Vegeta, who just crawled to it. Krillin didn't do anything like he promised, and both just watched as he crawled, pathetically he added mentally, to his pod. Once Vegeta was inside, he flipped himself over so that he was facing the two and decided not to leave without giving them a message. With a dark smirk on his face, Vegeta said. "You two are fools for not ending me. I swear when I return, you shall all perish before my hand." Krillin glared at him, but Goku just smirked. "You can try, but Naruto or myself will always beat you before you can." Vegeta lost his smirk and sneered at him, but before he left, he heard Naruto, who was approaching. "Vegeta." He contemplated whether he should leave now or wait to hear what Naruto has to say. He decided on the latter because he was curious on what Naruto wanted with him. It didn't take long for Naruto to arrive, still in his Izaru transformation, and was standing a few feet away from the pod. "What do you want?" Naruto frowned before bringing down his left hand, revealing Mei's unconscious form. "Aren't you going to take her with you? If I remember correctly, she is your niece, isn't she?" Now, Naruto might hate Vegeta and Nappa for what they did, but he didn't hate Mei at all, because he saw that she didn't really like the idea of killing and enjoyed fighting, similar to his father and himself. Vegeta stared at Mei's form for a bit before he scoffed. If she couldn't defeat you earlier, which would have prevented me being in this state, then she doesn't deserve to be by my side and is no niece of mine. But those finally words, he closed the pod and it instantly flew away. Everyone who was conscious at the time glared at the pod as it left for leaving his own niece behind. Naruto just grit his teeth and made a promise to himself. I swear, if I see him again and he hasn't changed, nothing will stop me from kicking his ass to death.